Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
LA is burning, riots in the streets, and I'm setting up my own biolab. Who wants in? Looking for investors. Any takers? We'll lay out the plan. We'll create the plan here tonight together. During the call-in show, a follow-up to last night's big Ostrich debate. It went on for 7 hours. I never thought I'd go that long last night, but we did. And I'm back tonight. And we'll have more on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so before we get to the biolab that I'm setting up, I better check the microphone. Yeah, okay, we have good audio tonight. I'm going to set up a biolab. Yeah. But let's go to LA first. Let's take a look at what's going on there, because we have, I guess, sort of a standoff developing. Well, it's not developing. We've got riots and just, it's chaos, man. Thank you, President Trump. This is supposed to be a live feed. Okay, let's take a look in there. So what do we know? I guess there's a group of protesters. They're marching toward the federal building in downtown Los Angeles, where National Guard troops have been deployed. Around 300 Guard members are in Los Angeles. They arrived this morning. President Trump has ordered the deployment of 2,000 troops. This move has been sharply criticized as inflammatory and unnecessary by the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Mayor of LA is calling this a chaotic escalation. And Newsom has been on social media urging the protesters to remain calm. Let's pull this down. Let's see. I've got another feed here. And we're going to go to the phones here really early tonight so you guys can join in on this conversation. This is the NBC feed. Let's take a look at their live. There it is. Yeah. There we have audio up. So Tom Homan, the border czar, has come out to defend Trump's decision to deploy these troops. And he's even warned Newsom and Bass that they could be arrested if they impede operation efforts there in LA. We've seen protesters there clashing with the authorities as they protest these ICE immigration raids. Yesterday was very chaotic. 11 people arrested overnight for failure to disperse. Well, I'm going to set up the phones. Hang on here. Yeah. Okay, big crowds. Now, before we get to the phones, just going to touch on something from last night so we can kind of tee up, I guess, really is more the appropriate thing to say here. Last night we were dealing with this ostrich controversy story in Edgewood, British Columbia. And I know that some of you are tired of talking about it, but I can't resist. I couldn't resist, and I still can't, to just dig into this even a little bit deeper tonight. Because, I was thinking about the story, and if you don't know the backstory, here's the quick version. Ostrich Farm, Edgewood, BC, run mainly by Karen Esperson and Dave Belinsky. They have financial trouble. There's no doubt about that. In 2020, pandemic hits, they pivot, and because they can't get their birds to market to sell them for food, they pivot to research. They turn it into a research facility. They start working with a professor in Japan and start getting their hands on this COVID antigen that they inject into their birds, the hens, to produce what they say are COVID antibodies. As a result, their birds start producing eggs that are very rich in COVID antibodies. About 5 years ago, they get sick. I guess that would be around the time they started injecting them, actually, when I think about it. Yes. Anyway, they lose at least 10 birds. And then fast forward 4 years later, and after they're conducting all this research, apparently with no permits or anything. Because we'll get into that. They then, just back in December, birds got sick again. 69 died. They didn't report it initially. Why? Well, you'd have to dig into the past broadcasts to determine how you view that. Anyway, wasn't reported. Finally, an anonymous tip goes into the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the regulatory body in Canada that deals with these kinds of matters. And they determine, after coming to the premises and taking tests from 2 of the deceased birds, that bird flu, H5N1, is present on site, and they order the flock, to be culled. They have about 400 birds at that point. At one time, we're told they had as many as 1,000. This is, I understand, the largest ostrich farm in all of Canada. They also have been involved in selective breeding. They supply these birds to other farms, somewhere between 20 and maybe even 30% at this point, not sure, but at least 20% of all the ostriches in Canada have come from, apparently, stock connected to this farm in one way or another. Protests organized, legal challenges since then. The cull has been delayed now almost 6 months, as the owners of the facility are given their due process, challenging the cull order, saying they have to save these birds. They say they're unique. Court decided otherwise, or the CFIA decided otherwise. And the court ruled that the CFIA does have the authority to proceed with the cull. And now there's another court challenge that is before the system, and we are seeing how that plays out. And it has become a very emotional, controversial issue. And last night we had a 7-hour marathon digging into this, because it is a very strange and weird story that involves international politics, because we've even seen RFK Jr., officials from the Trump administration, intervening. We've seen a radio show host and owner of WABC Radio in New York kind of take up the cause and tell sort of a half the story, to spin a narrative, to breed sympathy for these ostriches, to put pressure on the Canadian government to stop the cull. We've even seen Dr. Oz get involved and offer to take the birds at his farm in Florida. An offer that was initially declined by Esperson and Belinsky, but later they were saying, well, maybe as a last resort, but I don't know what would be involved in sending these out. So last night we had a doctor, professor from UBC, on as part of a long call-in show, after we had Katie Pasitny, the daughter of Karen Esperson, the co-owner of the farm, on to talk, and she did answer some questions, then decided she didn't want to answer anymore and signed off in the middle of the interview. But we also had on Dr. Stephen Pellick, who said some interesting things last night. It really got me thinking. So I thought, well, let's review that a little bit here today. I believe there it is right there. Okay, we've got the clip. So I'm just going to run a little bit of this from last night, and then I'm going to tell you why I'm going to set up my own biolab. Okay? And you guys can help tonight. And we'll start getting into this when we go to the phones. All right. So this was last night's interview. We had David Dixon on. We had Jeff Goodrow on from Freedom Organization of some kind. He works in the background somehow and connects people, puts things together, whatever. I'm not exactly sure what Jeff does or what he is, but anyway, he helped set up the interviews last night. So that was cool. And I'm just going to let this run, and then this will explain ultimately where I'm going with this.
From part of the farm before 2024.
Well, because just to tee this up, this is where I'm going with it. Dr. Pellick says that what they were doing at the farm with the research, injecting the birds with COVID antigens, don't need any permits, he says. No licenses required, don't need anything. And then I started asking questions about, what you would need in terms of permitting to get access to these COVID antigens, which they were sourcing from a lab that the farm was apparently sourcing it from a laboratory in Quebec, Sherbrooke, Immune Biosolutions. And they were also getting it from, at one point, this professor in Japan at Kyoto Prefectural University. And I was like, well, how do you import that stuff? How do you get your hands on it? And then, well, you just listen to what Dr. Pellick has to say in last night's exchange.
Well, neither were you involved. You're
I
making
know, and that's the point. You seem to be missing that.
No, but I'm not getting worked up about it because I know what typically is done.
Well, I'm getting worked up.
And David Dixon is a former police officer, an investigator, and he's been digging up a lot of information on this story as well. And then we're getting into this exchange about, what was injected. And David is saying, well, you don't really know Dr. Pellick, who was a witness, an expert witness, I guess, called during the court case. And so now we're getting into the heated part here a little bit.
You know what the risks are, and you are overinflating what's going on here so dramatically, and you're scaring people.
Like, do you want, David, do you want that to be the answer? Like, are you excited? Like, do you want it to be pathogens?
No,
like, are you like, yeah, this is what it is? Like, that's the vibe I get from you, dude.
You know what, Jeff? Stop. You're being pitiful.
Well, it's the reality. Like, you're discrediting what Pellick is saying with no basis behind your claim. You have no basis to state what you're stating. Like, where is your basis to undermine Dr. Pellick, to undermine Dr. Sakamoto? Like, where is your basis to say, no, these people are lying? Not Dr. Pellick, but Dr. Sakamoto is not being forthcoming with the research, with the information. Where is your basis behind that?
Well, my basis is I'd like to see where the import permit, just for starters, is, which you would need from PHAC.
Standard operating procedure in most countries, including Canada, the US, and the UK. If we get a call that somebody's got an envelope with white powder in it, we don't assume it's flour. We take all biohazard safety precautions immediately.
We deal internationally with this all the time, and customers, we've done work for about pretty close to 3,500 labs over the last 25 years, and they send us samples for analysis. And when they're sending it to us for the permits to cross the border, they come in as non-infectious proteins. And that's exactly what we've been dealing with here. It's a non-infectious protein.
You keep saying that, and you don't know that
because
that's an assumption.
And you don't need it.
David, I want to thank you, David. You really, really helped our cause tonight, David. I really appreciate you, man. I really do.
I import stuff. I import stuff sometimes on occasion from China, just consumer electronics.
I'd be a little bit more.
I got to jump through hoops with customs and permits and taxes, and they're importing something much more complex than that. I'm not buying this. There are no rules argument. And
then customs wouldn't let it through then, right?
Follow non-infectious proteins and even extracts.
Well, where are their permits? Where's the paperwork on this?
How do you know it's non-infectious?
Because proteins are not infectious except
regardless, even a component of this is non-infectious, requires permit.
Playing word games, and it's
you guys aren't letting him answer. Both of you are talking over him.
Your intelligence to play these word games. You don't know. They could have been injecting them with saline, and this could all be a con. You don't know what.
There's the David I know right there. There's the David Dixon I know.
You don't know. And that's
I was waiting for it to come out, David. I was waiting.
You have to purify. You have to purify the antibodies.
I know what you're supposed to do. I know what you're supposed to do. But you don't know what they did.
No antibodies.
Steven, I know what they're supposed to do. I know what they're supposed to do. I know what the rules are. But you don't know that they followed them. We know for a fact the farm has not followed the rules. We know for a fact. Katie came
on. You don't know that as a fact on this particular case.
Well, she said she didn't have any permits.
Well, you don't need a permit. That's what I'm telling you.
You say
if it's a non-infectious protein, you can inject it into your animals to make antibodies.
You're making an assumption on that. You have no idea.
At the University of
Well,
British Columbia, we had an animal
no,
farm. I used to make antibodies there,
no, what
and I
you
didn't need a
do
permit
somewhere
from the
else.
government to do that.
Guess what? I can tell you I've got viruses in my fridge. You don't know whether I do or don't.
Well, I know
Will
you do.
take my word
Viruses
for it?
are everywhere.
Yeah, I know, no, but I've got purified synthetic viruses that I made. And,
and Dr. Pellick, you have credentials and you are probably authorized to purchase some of these things. If I go to try to purchase some of this stuff, I'm pretty certain I would probably have some difficulty.
No, you could get it because these proteins aren't
the experimental stuff from Dr. Tsukamoto.
They are not
a
health
for something you don't know, Stephen. You keep making an assumption.
No. I've only been in this business for
I know you've been in this business. The farm has been in the business.
And as a research scientist with my own lab, 38 years, and I've been following the regulations throughout the whole time. I know what's required.
Dr. Tsukamoto didn't go to the pharmacy and buy this stuff. He made it.
Yes, because he had the resources and it wasn't available at that time.
Right.
So you know, just masks had to go through a certification process to be brought into the country in 2020. KN95 masks had to be approved by the FDA, stamped NIOSH, and nonsense. Approved.
We've been using N95 masks in my lab.
I'm using this as an example. Anything coming into the country related to COVID had to be approved and certified. They didn't just let it cross the border and go, no, okay, this one's safe. Don't worry about it. It's only a protein.
Yes, an N95 mask has to meet certain certifications. That's just right. Like when I paint cars, I paint cars, and if I have a mask and a filter, it has a number on it.
It still has to be certified.
Anything that's going to be used in that kind of capacity, any product that comes into Canada has to have some kind of certification. Even a can of beans requires certification.
Yeah. So
according to the Government of Canada website, possessing antigens for the purpose as a biological substance is not inherently illegal in Canada.
Okay, enough of this. Here's the point. We're told last night that the farm, there's no rules. The farm didn't have any permits to do Universal Ostrich Farm. Katie Pasitny said last night that the farm had no permits. She said they didn't have any permits, licenses, or anything at all to do the research they were doing to be injecting these birds with these COVID antigens. And then it's a long exchange there on the program. You can go back and watch the whole thing. It's still up. That was a fair portion of it. And Dr. Pellick said that, yes, I could get these antigens. And we discussed it, for some time. And he said last night that basically what they provide at the Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacies in Canada, and pharmacies across the country in Canada, these COVID antigens or antigen tests are the same as what they're using to inject the birds with at the farm. So I thought, well, no rules. Anybody can do it. You can go to the pharmacy and buy what you need to start experimenting on birds. So, and you can apply for government grants. You can make a lot of money. It could be risky because you have to invest some money. You're going to have to buy the antigens, right? You're going to need to buy some birds or some animals to inject. Or you could inject yourself like Dr. Tsukamoto did. But then I thought, well, what the heck? Let's set up our own biolab. So I said to my wife, I said, I'm just going to set up my own biolab. She said, what? I just had a conversation with her earlier, just a little while ago. I said, yep, setting up a biolab, going to do it in the backyard. You can't do that. I said, yes, I can. No, there's rules. I said, no, there aren't. Don't need no rules, no rules, no permits necessary. Anybody can do it. It's not against the law. You can possess these antigens. You can get them at Shoppers Drug Mart. And they're handing out millions of dollars for research. And we don't have to do the research. All we got to do is get some birds, inject them with some stuff, let them lay some eggs, sell them for $45,000 a pop. And I'm just going to do it in my backyard, set up my own open air bio facility. Well, you're not doing that. You can't do that. I said, yes, I am. No, there's laws against that. No, there aren't. Yes, there are. No, there aren't. Yes, there are. No, there aren't. No rules. There's a bylaw against it. No, there isn't. Where are you going to get your the stuff? I'm going to go to Shoppers Drug Mart. I'm going to buy some COVID antigen. So I thought, well, you know, I'll start calling around, see if I can get my hands on some of that. There's that COVID antigen. Yeah. Now, I don't know if they'll have enough though, because we're going to want to make a lot of money. So we're going to need a lot of birds out at the Universal Ostrich Farm. They have about 400. So I don't know. I guess we're looking for, I don't know, how many doses of COVID antigen. We'll start small. We'll say 200. How about that? Let's see if we can get our hands on some COVID antigen. Let's call over now to the Shoppers Drug Mart. We'll start close to home. We'll go down to Windsor, Ontario, and we'll see if we can't round us up some COVID antigen to inject. Now, before I get to that, I should show you. Well, let's just see if we can get our hands on some first. Let's just do this, and then I'll show you the other thing after. Here we go. Let's make a phone call down to one of the Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacies in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. See what happens.
Prescription renewal, press 1. To check if your prescription is ready, press 2. To ask a question about a medication, press 3.
Pharmacy can I help you?
Yes, my name is Rick Walker. I was having a conversation with Professor Stephen Pellick from the University of British Columbia, who directed me to Shoppers Drug Mart, saying that I might be able to purchase COVID antigen in an injectable form from a Shoppers location. Do you supply that, or can I purchase that there?
Let me just connect you to my pharmacist. You know better. Give me 1 sec.
Thank you.
Your call is important to us. Please stay on the line and someone will be with you shortly. Speaking.
Hello, my name is Rick Walker. I was having a conversation with Professor Stephen Pellick, a virologist at the University of British Columbia. He directed me to Shoppers Drug Mart and says that we should be able to purchase some COVID antigen in an injectable form through the pharmacy there. Do you supply that?
Injectable form?
Yes.
No, we don't supply that.
Okay. Any idea where I could purchase an injectable form of COVID antigen?
So what does he mean by that? Like, tell me the goal of this advice. Is something to
Yeah, he says that we should be able to purchase that to inject into some birds.
Inject what again?
The COVID antigen. So we could purchase it to inject into birds for a study.
Birds?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think we can help you with this, and I don't think there's anything available in the pharmacies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of COVID antigens do you have? Just the tests that are like swabs, just that type?
So the test is not for injection. The only thing that will produce antigen in the human body is the vaccines, and this is not for cell.
Yeah, you don't sell the vaccines.
We don't.
Yeah, I couldn't purchase those if I wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just come there and make an appointment to get vaccinated. So
vaccinated, yes.
So I guess maybe there's a misunderstanding, or perhaps he's not correct about being able to purchase it through a pharmacy then.
I believe so too.
Okay. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry to have bothered you.
No, you're not. Have a nice day.
You as well. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I ain't giving up. I'm going to get some, my guy, he gave us the name of another company. I went to their website. You couldn't order it online though. So I'm going to have to wait till tomorrow when they're open. Here, I've got the website up. He says we can get it from these guys. Says I should be able to phone right up and get some COVID antigen, just like the kind that they were injecting at into this Dr. Tsukamoto from Japan was developing. Here, I'll show you. Okay, so first of all, here's Signal Chem. So I went to the website. I'm like, let's just order it online. I bet you it's all real convenient since anybody can do it. Just place an order, go to their shopping cart, sign in, sign out, away you go. But there's I don't see any way to order it. No, can't order it. Can't order it. I don't know. Maybe you just call up and just place your order by phone. So we'll call there tomorrow. And this is just again, let me just show you one more time. So we've got Dr. Tsukamoto. Dr. Tsukimoto. Where'd you go? Here we are. I'll just show you the way it was being done. Okay. And again, I don't know, maybe there's a misunderstanding, but since no permits are needed to import it, no permission, I guess, of any kind is required to possess it or to use it or to inject into animals. This is the way Dr. Tsukamoto has been doing it. And this is the professor from Japan that the farm in Edgewood, BC has been collaborating with over the past 5 years or so. So you can see they've got a syringe there and he's injecting the bird. And there's Dr. Tsukamoto himself, who I've not spoken to, and I don't believe he's made any public statements of any kind at this point, because none of our inquiries have been answered. So he's been kind of silent on this so far. And I did also call out to the Immune Biosolutions lab. I did speak to a former public relations person who is involved in issuing the media release on the $13 million federal grant, but I have not heard back directly from the company to get current information regarding involvement of, or possible involvement of Immune Biosolutions with Universal Ostrich Farm out in Edgewood, BC, where we do have this bird flu outbreak, but they're saying the birds are now healthy. 69 died. And just to be very clear, you saw the way the birds were being injected, and this is what Shoppers Drug Mart stocks is antigen tests like this. It's the only way you can get the antigen is these nasal swab things. And so that's not what we were talking about last night. We're talking about injecting the birds, which I think I was pretty clear about and have been from the beginning. And that requires a syringe and Dr. Pellick says it's the same thing. And you heard him, he said, you'll be able to get it. And he said that, yeah, it's the same stuff from Shoppers Drug Mart, and I should be able to get my hands on it from this other company, Signal Chem. And so no success calling around a bit today to Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacies. None of the people I spoke to could make sense of what I was saying or asking for. And we'll see what happens tomorrow when I call Signal Chem. I'll try. Not giving up yet. It's a great business opportunity. Not regulated. Anybody can do it. No permits. No restrictions. Nobody going to stand in your way except for my wife. And I had the perfect argument. Yes, I can. Yeah. Yes, I can. I can do it. No rules. Going to the phones right after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, it's time to call in. Help me come up with a name for this new biolab business. Help me develop the business plan. Let's work out the details and dig into today's top news stories together. Here's the number to call. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Here we go. And we've got two people on. Two people calling in all at the same time. Here we go. All right, I think I know who these guys are, but let me. How many people do we have here? No, yeah, we got them. Okay. Close that off. Get everybody up on the screen. Are you guys there? You ready to go? Okay, here we go. You're on the screen. All right, introduce yourselves for those who don't already know who you are.
Well, I'm Dragon, but I'm calling to the Maverick Research Lab. Is this the right number?
You've reached, well, we need a name. So I don't know, Maverick Mad Lab? You can help me come up with a name, guys. But yeah, you've reached the right place. I gave you one.
And Dragon, it's Richter. It's Rimby John from Kanakistan, Alberta. Dragon, is our bromance still on, bro? You still love me? I love you.
Always, my brother.
We're not the Elon Musk and the Trumpster.
Wow. So where do you guys want to begin tonight? You want to talk about chaos and riots in LA? You want to talk about the bio birds? You want to help me come up with a name for this new bio research company?
Well, let's start with the biolabs name.
Okay.
Why not?
No rules. Anybody can do it.
Well, I'm asking myself if I should probably try myself also in few labs in Montreal and see if I can purchase myself a few doses of it.
Yeah, well, we need to come up with a source for our COVID antigen, which apparently is completely safe, and we shouldn't worry at all.
Rickster, we might have a few labs in Alberta too. Calgary, Edmonton. I'll dig into that tomorrow for you guys too.
Awesome. Okay, so we're on a roll here. We have now 3 provinces.
Oh, do not
covered.
forget Winnipeg.
when Dragon, that's called winter peg.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait.
Well, Dragon and Rick, just a quick question, guys.
Yep.
This David, the investigative guy, is I didn't know this, but it kind of came out on the 7-hour call last night. Is there a little bad blood between this David and his wife and this Jeff? Because this Jeff was making out that he was gonna charge him maybe allegedly for harassment and don't contact me on my Facebook anymore. And I mean, that
I don't know.
came out of
I
the
don't know,
blue
John.
at me.
I can't get. I don't really want to get into that at all. But I have no idea what any of that is about. And
it just kind of hit me out of the blue that I think these guys know each other.
I don't know
maybe, allegedly.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Indirectly, John, they've had contact. I don't know, so I don't even want to go down that road. So let's just change the topic because that's a personal thing between them that I have zero to do with and know nothing.
Well, guys, I'm just wondering, like Dragon and Rick and Maverick, is there any idea, Rick? Do you have any info, Dragon or Rick? Like, is this cull of these allegedly 400 birds, like, is it actually going to happen, or is it a pie in the sky a year from now, or where are the authorities on all this, guys?
We know that the farm has now a second stay order where they're trying to get another delay. I think they got a stay, which means that it gives them a little more time to prepare for another legal challenge to this whole thing. And it has dragged on now for nearly 6 months since the initial cull order was issued. That's where it stands legally. Does that help you?
Yeah, it just seems like, guys, a real circus sort of clown show. I don't know.
Well,
and I'm deeply, and I've talked to a bunch of people over the weekend in Alberta between Calgary, Edmonton, and Red Deer, and there's people picking up on the story, guys, and there's people very concerned, guys, out here about our food system, like our chicken, our poultry, our beef, our pigs, like our pork, like eggs, like dairy, like, guys, people are concerned about this.
I'm concerned about it. I'm very concerned about it. And you have 69 dead ostriches. We know that ostriches are not as likely to die from the disease, but they can be efficient asymptomatic carriers of it. You have a call order, you have quarantine order. With that come restrictions, requirements, and from what we're seeing, the quarantine order has not really been followed in many respects. The farm owners saying things like, putting up netting is not practical. They can't do it, but they were ordered to put up netting over a pond where ducks are being attracted because they're putting out feed, which the ostriches eat, and then they have this flocks of ducks coming in on a regular basis. And it wasn't like a one-time thing where ducks flew in. When I initially heard the theory that the ostriches may have been infected with bird flu by ducks that landed inside the containment area for The ostriches, I thought it was kind of maybe a one-time thing, but no, it's just open air. And yes, 2 days ago, Katie Pasitny on another broadcast talked about the ducks, and it looks like these ducks come and go all the time. And there's a flock of between 300 and 500 that sort of come into the farm on a regular basis right now. And at this time of year, those ducks go to that pond. They swim around in it, of course, defecate in it, drink from it. The ostriches go down there. They run around. They become exposed to the ducks all the time, and the ducks leave and the ducks come back. And, what the CFIA obviously is concerned about is ongoing contamination. And that's why they want the netting put up, which is what is done at other farms. And I said with Katie last night, there's a farm maybe 20, 25 minutes from here, a blueberry operation, and they have netting over the whole thing, a massive amount of netting over the whole field for these blueberries that they grow so that the birds can't get in to eat the blueberries. Otherwise, they'd have no crop. So it's all covered in netting, top to bottom, like right over top, and then like walls. You have to, it's very well organized. They've been in business a long time. They run a great operation over there. It's also touristy because you can stop in and get blueberry pie in their store, and there's like a gift shop, and it's a touristy destination. You can go and pick blueberries when it's time for harvest. But anyway, they put netting up all over their farm, but out at Edgewood for the birds, their ostrich operation, they've been ordered to put up netting and provide better fencing, which is a requirement anyway for an ostrich farm, proper fencing.
Well, Rick, here's the other thing. I'm an oil man.
It just goes on and on.
But Rick, I'm an oil man, but a farmer. But here's what gets me is when you have land like that, there's animals. They can be coyotes, wolves, badgers, gophers. They're crisscrossing across, land at night at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And the other thing I want to mention, I thought she kind of bailed out on you last night, Rick, but am I off base? I don't have sympathy for the lady on last night. I have a lot of empathy for her. And I'm wondering, it almost seems like she's almost maybe in a roundabout way a victim of propaganda, of a bit of brainwashing. Like she's gone so deep down the rabbit hole with her mom coaxing her and that other guy. Like I feel really bad for her, Rick. Am I off base feeling empathy for her?
Maybe not, John. I know that family, the Espersons and Katie, what year was it? A few years ago, they had a wildfire go through there, and they made headlines back then because they refused to leave their farm. And Katie said to me something that was very interesting. She said that they, quote, they tried to burn us out in a conversation I had with her. And I was like, and I thought about it after, and okay. So she believes that the government, that's what I'm taking from it. Correct me. She can call and correct me if I'm wrong, but she's believing that the government was trying to burn out their farm. And so they didn't leave. And they made headlines. Karen also told me that, I think it was Karen. Yeah. Told me that no, it was in the article that that is online still. You can go find it. You can look this stuff up. So a lot of other farmers and people from the area brought their animals to the Esperson's farm, to Universal Ostrich Farm, when the wildfire was going on. See, they just didn't trust the government. They didn't trust the firefighters, and they stayed to fight the fire themselves. And I'm not in the end sure exactly how that all went down, but the farm didn't burn down, obviously. And
Rick,
and they also started a fundraiser back then too. Another one that was ongoing. That was interesting.
Rick, she comes across as just such a really sincere lady.
Yeah, the point is, John, we've got another caller on the line. I'll just wrap up and we'll come back to you in a moment. But You see, there's just automatically now there, especially since the pandemic and then the wildfire thing. I see that the family, like a lot of people, has a real instant distrust of government. And in the interview that you heard with Katie last night, they didn't have any permits for doing anything. And it's clear that, you know, they just aren't following rules unless you listen to Dr. Pellick, who tells us that you don't need permits to run a research facility like the one that they have. Who's on the line with us now? Who just called?
It's Isabel.
Hey, how are you tonight?
I'm sorry, we don't have any of the antigen
Oh, well,
available.
well, maybe you could just take a little stroll down to your local pharmacy tomorrow and see if you could pick some up for us.
We should do Fantasy Island Biolab because.
Oh, Isabel, Isabel, you've just nailed it. It'd be the Maverick News Fantasy Island, Biolab? They're extra. That's a great idea, Isabel.
It's kind of a long
Great
name,
name.
but not bad. Just maybe a little long.
Well, we could
Isabel,
just go with the letters, then they can't find us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could stay under the radar.
Isabel, are we going to have
Underground.
Tattoo with us? We need
What's
Tattoo
that?
and we need Tattoo with us, you know, on board with this.
That's true. The plane, boss. The plane.
The plane. No, Isabel, the biolab, the bird, the biolab.
Well, I was thinking, guys, you know how people say it's a good thing cows don't fly,
Yes.
right? I would say
pigs don't either.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing ostriches don't fly. Do you know how large
Oh my God.
a bird turd from an ostrich is?
That's like the geese when they.
I mean, if you put a 200-pound ostrich into the air and it let one fly, right, and it landed on your car,
Your insurance would go up.
oh my God, I think you'd be visiting a body shop. for sure.
No kidding.
I think it'd take out your
I
windshield,
gotta
no
tell
problem.
you, the only people that were intelligent last night was yourself and David. Those other two blowhards, that Jess, oh my God. I was ready to punch my TV last night.
Well, I'll leave.
He looks like a wacko. He reminds me of that guy in the States that's the head of the, what's his name?
Oh, Cash
the scary
Patel,
face?
crazy eye guy?
Yeah. Yeah, his friggin' eyeballs last night. Everybody in the chat was going, Jeff's high.
Crazy.
Like he couldn't sit.
well-
he couldn't
well,
sit
is-
still. He
is-
was munching and he was making me dizzy walking around his house.
But I mean, Isabel, the guy, I think he was incredibly rude to
Yeah.
Rick and David, and also the doctor. He walked around, he grabbed a Corona beer out of the fridge. Isabel, I think he did a wardrobe change 3 times walking around the house. Did you pick up on that? I just thought he was extremely unprofessional and
Yeah.
and very rude to just the entire crowd. And he laughed and interjected and like everything's a joke. Well, it isn't a joke.
Uneducated, ignorant, rude. I put in the chat, he's looking for his crayons. Somebody send him some crayons.
Yeah, I'm looking in the chat here. Any suggestions here? BioBabeCanada.com, says Jubilee.
Oh, there you go.
BioBabe. I don't know. That's kind of sexist.
Isabel,
I did look
like
it up, and there's already a lab called BioBabe, so it's already taken.
What
I'm sorry.
What are they?
How about Big Bird?
What the heck does BioBabe Lab do? what kind
Maybe
of,
we don't want
what
to
is-
know.
all right, let's not even look it up. I'm afraid. I'm very afraid.
Maverick Truto. That's another good name.
Maverick.
Truto.
Well, only if we're restricting ourselves to ostriches, I think, if we go down that road. So we want to be flexible, I think, right? Not just I don't have ostriches around here, so we have to pigeons, maybe. Yeah, pigeons. We maybe get some chickens.
Like
Isabel. You know what?
What do you want to
I got
inject?
a beautiful open lab here in Montreal. There's plenty of those pigeons that I could probably try to interact with, right?
There's our stock. We can get them for free. Dragon, you just go down to the downtown area there and just just kidnap some pigeons from downtown Montreal. There's lots of them down there, right? And then we get them for free.
There's plenty of them.
We got to cut costs. We got to run a lean operation with our bio bird
The
lab.
dragon will be running around Montreal going, coo, coo.
Just
And
throw,
Rick, I'll
just throw
supply.
some bait.
Rick, I'll supply the oil jet so we can fly the ostriches all over and contaminate all of Canada.
Oh well,
There you go.
that's no, we're not doing ostriches though, John.
We're doing pigeons.
Yeah, we're doing
Oh,
pigeons.
pigeon. Okay.
Too much liability with the ostriches, because if we turn them loose and we create this new super ostrich, which will be able to fly, we'll be getting all kinds of lawsuits as they bomb people's cars. Too many dents to fix. So
Now, will these be homing pigeons?
we should
So we
should
can
get.
keep sending
Well,
them out, bringing them back.
well, I used to have homing pigeons when I was a kid, but I don't know.
Like, Isabel, can I ask you a question?
I might have an answer.
Well, Isabel, I'm a kid from the '60s. Are
Me too.
we the only sort of regular, normal people left in the world with some common sense? Because the only
John.
people last night on the 7-hour call to me that had any common sense was Rickster and David.
Are
am
you
I
calling
off
me
base?
normal?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. You just
How dare
offended
you?
Rick. He's a misfit.
Yes, we're all misfits around here, John.
With common sense.
God,
With
you're
a
so
misfit with
insulting.
common sense.
No, you just
Yes.
insulted Rick.
Oh my!
I'm a
Oh,
warped
God.
misfit. I grew up in the 60s where, burn the bra, free the draft dodgers. That was me.
Sharon says we should call them Mad Mavericks Biolabs. That's pretty good.
Oh,
Mad
that's
Mavericks.
a good one.
That's a pretty good one. I like.
That's a good one.
Or Freedom Labs, or owned by Cosmo of Canada. Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
I was thinking we could inject Cosmo, but then
Oh, no,
he's my
no.
pet. He's my pet. We don't inject our pets. We only inject the animals that we don't get attached to.
That's right.
BioBabe Canada.
That's all we do. So look, but there's a lot of free pigeons. Just look downtown London or Toronto or Montreal or Ottawa.
AgriCorp. There's another company. Somebody is suggesting AgriCorp is the name of a company where maybe I can get some COVID antigens tomorrow. Anybody else know any good places where we can get a deal on some COVID antigens or a COVID antigen?
I can try to call places in Montreal and Quebec, see if I can come up with something.
All right, that's your territory. You'll cover
Well,
that.
and I can do, Rickster, I can do the same in Alberta. I can call Calgary, Red Deer, and Edmonton.
All right,
see
you're
if I can
on.
find out anything.
All right.
And I only have 2 pharmacies here, Guardian and PharmaSave. So I could try those.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
I've done some Shoppers Drug Marts, but I'll continue my quest tomorrow. I'll call some other pharmacies around here, and I'll call, what was that one called? It was called Signal Chem Life Sciences. We'll give them a shot, and we'll call this other one AgriCorp.
And I can't see when I listened to that so-called doctor last night, he was almost like no concern whatsoever. I mean, he didn't really know. He didn't actually see this substance to say what it was. So how could he actually say, oh, yeah, that's what it was? But you didn't actually see it.
And Linda says, and at that, why didn't he supply the farm, seeing it is supposed to be the same stuff? There's a good question too, because they were having trouble sourcing it. That's why they ended up working with the lab in Quebec. Maybe they just didn't know. I don't know. Maybe they didn't know before.
But Rick, Isabel, and Dragon, that Dr. Peter last night, like, I don't know if that was a screenshot or a photo of his back office. He looks like a well-heeled guy. Brian Howell said he's probably making $300,000 a year, allegedly, from the University of Vancouver, BC. But I don't know if the guy's a total quack or on the money. I had really mixed feelings about, he just kind of blew off all of Rick's reasonable common sense stuff that normal people do in Canada. And David, he just blew it all up. Am I off base on that, Isabel?
Well,
No,
no, because
that
I will
doctor
tell you
did.
this. I'll tell you from my logic real quick. I'm not a scientist, but my common sense tells me that everything that he said yesterday, or most of it, is BS. And I'll tell you why. Because when you said something about ingesting probably wouldn't be a big problem if we eat those bird
No.
for the reason that there's probably antigen that we could get from it. You don't know the effect of it. You don't know how it's going to, what reaction your ingestive system will have from it. That's another thing. And I mean, there's other stuff that he said yesterday that basically was blowing my mind. There's another part where, you know, when you look into how you look when you have more than one pathogen into one same one same body, it could actually mutate and create something that we call a chimera. And this is basically something that he wasn't even able to present or to express yesterday for a doctor that is having basically a PhD that I don't have.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, everybody's constitution is different. You cannot generalize on something like that and say, "Oh yeah, it's okay for everybody." That's not how it works.
And there's another thing. I'm just you just make me realize something, and it just popped into my mind. Sorry, I want to put that out there. Rick said something along the way earlier that when there were a fire, Karen or whatever said that they were trying to burn out the farm, right? Well, it sounds like basically those people, when you have wildfires, trying not to listen to FEMA or other Red Cross or whatever, telling you when needs to be to go, because you know it's for your own safety. The thing is that the same goes with, and I'm sorry, but maybe I'm mixing stuff here, but the same people would have argued back in 2020 that at some point we have the herd immune from COVID and stuff like that, which is probably what they would agree the same argument with the ostriches, which doesn't make sense.
Well, and Dragon and Isabel and Rick, on that point, what really disturbed me, Rick, with your interview with her, when you asked her, like, what happened to these, you know, these 68, 69 birds that died, and she kind of gave you kind of a kindergarten Sesame Street answer. Well, we buried them so deep and whatever. I can tell you, cattlemen in Alberta, like when an animal dies, and it can be a pig, a horse, a cow, they're buried deep, deep, deep in a pit. There's lime put on them. They're incinerated they're cremated. They are cremated before they are properly disposed of with the proper chemicals, and they're cremated. They're incinerated before there's 12 feet of dirt put on them. Whatever. I didn't get that impression from that lady. Isabel, am I kind of a nut job or like?
No, because when she said that to Rick last night, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, where did you bury them? How deep did you, because she was not clear, how deep did you bury? And then you put big stones on them. And I'm thinking, and you're saying that you know a lot about what you're doing, that you're in charge of what you're doing, and yet this is what you're doing. I mean, even back when we've had severe pandemics, like go way back. I know my mother had told me before, when they had outbreaks of the Black Plague and all that, the bodies were cremated.
Yep.
Right. The house was totally sterilized as they could back in those days. And these ashes, whatever was left, was not just put in the ground. Because they were so fearful of the plague, even back then. And she showed no concern over this. So are they walking around on this land and there's a bunch of rocks someplace where these birds are buried?
Yeah, the birds are on site. She says they were disposed of according to CFIA instructions. I'm going to show you something here in a minute, though, related to that. But I'll let you guys continue with the conversation.
It would seem kind of weird that CFIA would say, oh, yeah, just dig a hole and put some rocks on it. You're good.
like here's the bill. In Dragon, I had this big mansion down south of Ottawa, Morrisburg, 1876. I had 500 bats upstairs. They'd been there a long time, but twice a year, my guys would go up in hazmat suits, clean up the bat iguana, and I used to deal with a company called Safety Express. Benefactor, I bought it. It was a complete disinfectant. It kills AIDS. We sprayed it down on everything. And I mean, we took the proper precautions when we did that with my guys. And it was a really medical sort of surgical protocol procedure and very, very, very safe. And it doesn't seem like, to me, as an old oil man, Alberta guy, cattle guy, I don't think these ostriches were, the ones that died were properly disposed of.
No, and I can't even see that they would have worn gloves because, these are their pet, right? So, but the thing that bothered me with that doctor last night, he was very flippant with his answers. And I'm thinking, you're
arrogant,
supposed to be...
Isabel, very arrogant to me, he came off.
Yes, and that smirk on his face when he would answer a question, and I'm thinking, and you were going to court for this? Like I can't believe this guy has the credentials that he has watching him last night. I mean, those two I could have wrote right off, him and Jess.
Oh,
David
you know
was
what?
trying to be, the only two intelligent people on last night were Rick and Dave.
You know what? People are going to think that I paid you guys to say these things.
No. Rick and Isabel and Dragon.
Something.
No, we are.
Rick don't sing for me.
Well, me neither. We are deeply, deeply concerned in Alberta. I was out all day. I ran into people that saw the show, and there's a lot of very, very concerned people in Alberta about our food system. What is our federal government doing? Our provincial government? Is the call ever going to happen out there? There's a lot of people very concerned about our food system in Canada, guys.
Yeah.
On the screen right now, I have
I'll say that. I'll just say it quick. Yesterday, I think, Rick, you've been kind of played and laughed at your face yesterday by Palek when he told you that you could call to basically any labs and get the injection of the pathogen of the COV2. So, I mean, I will do the call tomorrow probably also, but the thing is that I'm sure the way that he was smirking, he was laughing right into your face.
Oh, the two of them were trying to take down Rick last night. Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, Isabel, I just found it so insulting to Rick. I mean, this is a man that has integrity, a family, values, does his research. He isn't, and the stuff Rick has come up with, like Peter Colombo, it's all public knowledge. And that David as well, I tip my hat to him. This is all, and there's only it seems to me, boys and girls, Maverick Newsland, only a couple of people in Canada or the United States that seem to be even looking into the true facts on this. And Rick is looking at the facts. And so is David.
Yeah, it seems to be that everybody else is fluffing over it. And I saw that Jim Kerr jumped on last night. I was so glad that Rick hung up.
So
Isabel, I thought that was really disrespectful. I don't feel sympathy for that Karen. I feel empathy for her. And it's almost like she's a victim of being brainwashed on the propaganda from that farm. I don't know. I feel really bad for her. I really do, as a human.
Yeah, you see on the screen there, I put up, this is a screenshot from the Rumble chat, reflecting, your concerns as well. 69 birds, he says here. Merrick Steves, I don't know who that is. 69 birds died. They buried them over 20,000 pounds in a mass grave in an area where everyone uses well water. What impact do you think burying over 20,000 pounds of infected meat will have on the environment? Namely, the water table where 100% of the surrounding farms and acreages draw their water from. This is illegal farm practices. The animals should have been incinerated. And then there's a link here that I will show you.
Wow. Rick, you got to be kidding. You got to be kidding.
Well, I'm just reading what he wrote.
Wow.
Wow.
Let me just bring this up. So this is the website he's sending us to. I think this is...
Shocked again, Isabel?
No shit.
Can you shock us anymore, Rickster?
Oh, probably, yeah. With this story...
I'm all shocked out.
Something every day.
This is the shock show.
So here's Waste Management Fact Sheet. This is
Isabel, it's called a shit show, not a bird show.
This is the Ministry of Agriculture for British Columbia with burial guidelines for large animals on farms. And we know that now. I was wondering, and I'm glad that Katie was forthcoming and informed us where these birds were disposed of, and it's on the farm property. They did dig a pit, and then they created a mass grave for the 69 ostriches that did die over the course of a month.
Oh my God.
And yeah, a lot of rules here. Assess groundwater contamination potential. Potential groundwater contamination can be assessed by looking at the soil type, soil depth, and depth to groundwater. Soil type, coarse soils such as sand and sandy loam increase the risk of groundwater contamination because they allow rapid transport of liquids away from the burial site. Soils that are very shallow, overlying bedrock or coarse rock and gravel permit rapid movement of contaminated water with minimal filtration or treatment. So just a lot of guidelines here to follow. Now, of course, the order to dispose, John, was issued by the CFIA with specific instructions. Katie indicated they did follow those. I wasn't there. I haven't seen it. I have no idea. This is, of course, provincial, not federal. But yeah, I think that all of this should be taken into consideration as part of all of that. Possible groundwater contamination should be one of the main concerns on a farm, especially we know that Karen, what was her last name? McDonald the other night indicated there are streams or something that intersect or go through that area. So
oh my God,
this is a concern.
But Rick, can you pull up, Google it? How do you properly dispose of a bull, a cow, a horse? I know how we do it in Alberta, and they're not disposed close to any water well. The pit is dug deep with lining. The animals are laid down with lime all over them to disinfect them, and 10,000 gallons of gas. They're incinerated. They're cremated before there is a proper burial done of them to make sure. I mean, they're cremated. It's 3,000 degrees, cremated. Before. Can you
and
Google
that lime? The lime burns as well, right? So it protects the soil.
It's a disinfectant. Yeah, it's Can you Google that, Rickster? Like,
I'm looking some stuff up here, John. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that would go back into court, Rick?
I don't know, Isabel. From everything that I've read on the legal side, it indicates that to launch another successful legal challenge would be difficult because the bar is set pretty high. So I don't know. That's the bottom line. I don't know.
Because I'm sure with the indigenous people that are around there and the water issues they're having, they're not going to be impressed with this at all.
No.
Yeah, I just don't know, and I don't know if the burial of the animals will even come up in this court challenge. It may, because one of the issues has been the farm owners' failure to comply with safety protocols and safety orders from the CFIA. They have not, they've just been ignoring a lot of it, it seems to me, based on what I've seen just from the videos and from speaking with people. And who just joined us on the line?
Who's on our call now?
It's Rudy Bruce calling.
Hey, sir, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty great.
Good. Yeah. So, Rudy, you, of course, been on a couple of times talking about this. And initially, you were all in and kind of helping to even, I guess, promote the Save Our Ostriches campaign, which has raised a considerable amount of money, somewhere in the vicinity of well over $250,000.
I'm one of the first guys that started to promote the thing.
Yeah, and now, of course, we all have, some concerns about the way things have been handled over there and the research, which was not really fully disclosed to people. Not a lot of people not aware of it. A lot of the social media influencers over there promoting this, like literally promoting it and asking people to go out there, only telling people part of the story and leaving out all the talk about all the information about the COVID research, which was conducted on site, not telling people that the birds were injected, a lot of stuff that just they're not just not being told. Where are your where are you thinking about this tonight, Rudy? What were your thoughts?
Excuse me. And well, this you had pointed out this is somewhat connected to WHO as well.
Yeah, in a roundabout sort of way.
Yeah,
it definitely is, and
and it goes all the way back.
Yeah,
it goes all the way back to 2020 when all this all started.
That's
with
right.
The ostriches, as far as the taking it off the food table, apparently.
They went from selling the birds for meat to becoming a 100%.
Yeah, but it's kind of an ironic thing that it now swings on the research of a catchable disease or a airborne disease, or however this thing is getting out. Okay. We went from that COVID pandemic thing to now we're looking at this disease thing spreading, and it's been a stall job. I mean, from the normal procedures of what they do, because in normal practices they just call the herd if they suspect that the herd is infected.
Yep.
And we've got 69. I think it's 69, isn't it? Or no?
69 birds confirmed to have died.
Yeah. Yep. Plus two that were tested positive.
Well, the two that tested positive are included in the 69, I believe.
Yeah, others missing. Others missing.
You've got the two. You've got the two, and then you've got the factor of wild game going in and out of this facility on top of all of this.
Yep.
Okay. And so we've got this beginnings of another possible huge outbreak of a disease type. And like you say, this all being kind of followed back in certain strains to the WHO. It really makes me wonder what the hell is going on here.
Yes.
Yes, it makes you wonder if they're in cahoots to start something new, right?
Yeah, and then you look back at the whole COVID episode, and how they treated the people. It was absurd. It was just unbelievable. And all the money that went flying out of the government offices in the name of research, and this and that regarding COVID. I mean, you name it. But anyways, the development of that Arrive Scan app, for example, it should have cost this much, but it cost this much for taxpayers. It was quite the ordeal, and that wasn't the only thing that was put on the table as far as a scam to taxpayers. So, it really makes you wonder how deep this really is going. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, and
Because-
Rudy, Rimby John,
Right, sure,
on
shoot.
behalf of Maverick and Isabel and Rick and Dragon, Rudy, thank you so much. Like, we were not aware of that. I certainly wasn't aware of this ostrich thing in Alberta, and I don't think anybody else was. And thank you, sir, for making us aware of this, because it's been going on for 6-8 months, and we only stumbled onto this about a month and a half ago, sir. So thank you again. Thank you, sir.
I think my hat goes more off to Rick, because he did more of the background research as to the other side of the coin, which we're now looking at. That opens up the eyes as far as, well, what are the possibilities here of the underhandedness of this whole pandemic stuff? Okay. I mean, now we're looking at really hardcore as to the disease and this and how it spreads and this and that and the whole 9 yards with this. Because if we don't get a handle on this and figure it all out, then we're right back at that same COVID crap all over again. You know,
I don't want to get locked down again. I don't know about you guys, but I do not want to get locked down again.
Me neither.
No. But you know what?
Well,
when I first heard you, Rudy, you were kind of backing up, the farm, not backing up, but kind of on the farm side. And then when you got your eyes opened up, you came over to our side.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like one more person who now understands. And if only more people would understand, instead of running out to that farm because she's boo-hooing every day.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not
a
matter of, it's not really a matter of jumping on another side. It's a matter of seeking out the absolute truth of this. I think that's the most, it's not a matter of, hey,
we're just looking for the truth, Rudy.
Yeah,
Randy,
exactly.
John, and you brought it to us, sir. And you did, and thank you again so much for that.
Yeah. It's a matter of going down the side of truth to find out exactly where we're going to deal with this, how we're going to deal with this, because this was a slap in the face for all Canadians when they did that to us. I mean, it was like we got broadsided, okay? And when COVID first hit and it was being talked about, it was a mystery. It was like, what the heck is this all about, right? And nobody could really speak out either way on either side because we didn't know enough about it. They hit us broadside. Now, when we went through that and we figured out a lot of stuff about COVID-19, and we figured out about, the money that was being spent in this, okay? This was a complete scam, okay? And the way they did it to us, I would certainly hate to be able, to let them go ahead with another one and do the same thing to us. You know what I mean? That's why we got to dig down the truth of the road of truth here when it comes to these diseases and how they're actually spread and blah, 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 blah. So this is going to be a whole new thing. Yeah.
This farm has started the fear again of the government. And that's what they're playing.
Yeah, I know that. But we cannot excuse the way the government handled the COVID-19 episode. Okay.
No.
They blew that whole thing so out of proportion, it was not even funny. Okay. And I think this is the stem, if you want to call it something, the stem base for another explosion of epidemic proportion that the WHO can say, well, you've got an epidemic here. We've got this and we've got that. Well, let's take a real hard look at this, okay, as to exactly what these diseases do and how they operate and blah, blah, blah. Scientifically, scientifically is our best friend right now as far as things go, because they manipulated all the facts pertaining to COVID-19 when that hit. Okay, they manipulated everything. And, people lost their jobs, lost their homes. People were shut down and made to live, without any support. And I mean, there was all kinds of disastrous situations as to what they did to us. We totally got broadsided, and the homeless. I mean, here you've got the homeless too. And what happened to them? Oh, nobody really concerned about them. They're still homeless. But, the excitement of, oh, we're going to get sick. We're going to get a disease. We're going to blah, blah, put a mask on your face, separate, all this stuff. But there sure wasn't a whole lot of talk about the homeless living in tents and stuff, was there?
You know what?
Well, and my take on this is what they're doing right now is we're going to be the saviors to support our farm because we're going to have the fear. So again, they're putting the fear in. Don't listen to the government. Listen to us because we're going to save you. You're so full of bull. It's unbelievable.
Create the problem.
I think that's why we really need to look at this whole thing. Yeah, go ahead.
It's creating a problem to create the solution.
Yes.
I think you may be onto something there, Dragon, because, when just looking at this, I don't think the request or the order really from the CFIA to put netting up to keep the ducks out of the area where the pond is and to make sure that these ducks just don't come in there. I don't think that's unreasonable because we've also seen and heard directly from Katie that they had an egg that was 5 years old, preserved, frozen, sent it, got it tested, I believe by Dr. Pellick, who confirmed the presence of H5N1 antibodies in that egg from 5 years ago, which tells us the birds had been exposed to bird flu 5 years ago. Now, some people are saying, well, that's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing. That shows that nothing was being done even 5 years ago when they first started running this open air biolab to keep the birds isolated in a controlled environment where proper studies could be done. They were being exposed to bird flu 5 years ago. Then 4 years ago, we saw that there was some sort of an illness. They're saying it was bacterial, but we can't know for sure at this point because it was so long ago, but they lost 10 birds for sure that died. They've confirmed. So you've got a die off of 10 birds 4 years ago, a year after, just about a year or half a year after their research starts, so 10 die there. You know that they're being exposed to the mallards, the ducks, because the CFIA also says that the farm has been encouraging the ducks to stop there, to fly in. And in social media posts and videos, they've laughed at that. They've mocked it at the farm, saying, you can't encourage ducks to stop at the farm. Well, indeed you can. If you want, and it's easy to prove, just put out a bird feeder and you'll attract birds. And so what is happening is they've been repeatedly throwing feed out around the pond, and the birds fly in. They know it's safe there. They're not going to get shot. There's no hunters, right? So it's a safe place, a place where there's a food source, and you have ducks swimming in the pond. And we know that scientifically, the ducks can be and are a good carrier of the bird flu virus since 2020, especially. So you've got ducks that are a known reservoir, is what they call it, for the disease, repeatedly being exposed to the ostriches. And it's the same water source that the ostriches go to. They're sharing the food, eating probably the feces of the, and coming into contact at least with the feces of the ducks. And we're not talking a couple of ducks. We're talking about a flock of 500. 500 ducks that are landing there over and over and over again. Katie, I thought it was a one-time thing. No, this is something that's ongoing regularly. And right now, she indicated, I believe 2 nights ago, that those ducks are flying in, flying out, flying in, flying out, flying in, flying out. They're going in there all the time. That means these ostriches, even now today, are probably coming into contact with these ducks. Well,
Yeah.
they're saying that they got infected from the ducks, and what are they doing to stop it? Nothing. Nothing. And they can get reinfected. And if the virus mutates, as viruses do naturally, they'll get the next strain and the next one. And it just blows my mind that nothing has been done to try to prevent the birds from getting sick again. You just left everything the way it has been.
Rick, this
and I have
opens
a
up a whole.
question.
Yeah,
I just have a short question. That egg was 5 years old, right?
Yep.
Okay. Did that doctor not last night say, well, once you boil it, it's no longer there?
He said,
So
actually, you know what? You're right. He said something earlier in the broadcast. He said you can almost, I think he said you can almost boil the thing and the antibodies are still good. But that's not to say that the virus is present in the egg or whatever. But he said something about the antibodies could be boiled and still have effect. Something to that effect. I'm not sure if is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So that frozen egg tells you that's how long that disease can last, right?
Well, in a frozen state,
frozen.
they've confirmed that the antibodies were present 5 years ago, and that tells us then if the antibodies are there, the immune system doesn't produce antibodies for a specific virus unless the specimen or the living organism is exposed to, like unless the bird is exposed to the disease, the immune system doesn't produce any antibodies. You have to introduce the disease or a spike protein or an inactivated portion of the virus to trigger the immune system to produce the antibodies. It just means that that virus was circulating or on the farm 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But the whole thing boils down to the facts, or the fact that because they've introduced this in such a big way and that it's supposed to be so dangerous, blah, 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 blah. We need to fully research this now, I think. I mean, as far as everything concerned with this, I mean, as far as the ducks, I mean, maybe we should capture a few of these ducks and have them tested.
We should study the ducks.
Yeah, I'm trying to nail down the scientific points of what is what here.
We should
how contagious is this?
Yeah, get some researchers, get some scientists, set up a program, capture some of the ducks, put trackers on them, like you can put bands on their legs, right, with radio transmitters.
It would be interesting to find out. First of all, before we went all out as far as killing off these birds, it would be an interesting fact to find out what is what with this virus. Okay. Like, I mean, really go hard on this because they're going to make, I mean, I bet you dollars to donuts, okay, that if the WHO really looks at this, and they probably already are, okay, that maybe this could be your next big pandemic to say, well, let's do this, let's do that. So I would say, let's get a handle on it and do a full research of this thing before they start making their recommendations as to what they intend to do or not do, like they did the last time with COVID. You know, I think this thing should be fully scientifically explored to find out exactly what we're really, really dealing with. Okay. And if it means the ducks are coming in there, then let's capture some ducks and find out if they've got it, see where this came from, nail down where this is all coming from. And then we're going to have a better understanding of really what to do.
But Rudy, it's like, I think everybody's a little too focused on the threat to people at this point. It's really more about the food supply because.
I think that's what it should pertain to. We should be concerned about the food supply.
Yeah.
That would be my main concern as well.
Yes.
I really wouldn't add the fact that it's such a danger to the people, but more to our food supply. Because when they put out a call order, they're taking out the whole thing. Okay. I mean, this goes on and on and on. I mean, if it was 5 years ago that these birds were able to get it, how did they get it? Okay, we got to find out what's going on here exactly and deal with the problem. You know what I mean? In a more of a scientific way.
Well, this is a scientific way. And again, you know what? Here's the thing, Rudy. Everything that we've been told by these people at the farm that I'm seeing is upside down.
I don't trust. Yeah, I'm not trusting.
Upside down, including the criticism of the culls. And it's good we can get into this discussion a little bit tonight. And I'll lay out a scenario and even an argument here to explain why the culls are really the only option to protect our food supply right now.
But Rick, I mean, the reason that they want to do that is to annihilate the strain. Okay.
No, that's not true. That's not accurate. Back it up. It's not to annihilate the strain.
Why would you call the whole herd then?
They know they can't at this point. Like, they don't have a cure. There's no way to annihilate it. But what they are doing is they're reducing the risk of spread. They're trying to slow it down to buy time so we can do more research, so we can get better treatment and even a cure, right?
That's what I'm saying is to do the research, do this on a more of a scientific angle. Than to just go ahead and do what we're thinking of doing.
Well, but I think we should take this on as a
scientific angle,
right?
And I think that would be the most important thing to do, because I mean, to have an understanding of this is more important of understanding it than it is to just say, okay, let's wipe out this herd, let's wipe out that herd,
but
it still comes back.
No, it's
no.
Where is it coming from? No. We're a little bit off track. And I'll explain.
Well, where is it coming from? If you're going to wipe out a whole herd, a whole herd, that's a lot of chickens. That's a lot of chicken. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're going to just keep doing that, that's not really solving the problem. I think we've got to find out.
They're not, but Rudy, see, that's the thing.
It's being transmitted and everything else.
Yeah, we know how it's transmitted, and that's why they call the herd, call the flocks.
Yep.
And see, chickens are different than ostriches.
Yeah, but where are chickens getting it from?
In this case, I would argue they could be getting it from the ostriches.
Yep.
No, the ostriches and chickens don't mix.
Rudy, they do.
Somewhere else.
Let me explain.
Mm-hmm.
The farm has been ordered to put up netting to prevent the ostriches from being infected, but also to prevent the ostriches from infecting the waterfowl. Also,
so you're saying that wildlife is infecting chickens?
No, not just no. That's a mistake.
Okay, I'm asking a question.
I'm trying to answer. I'm trying to answer. Let me answer.
Mm-hmm.
The virus can spread in a lot of different ways. It's very pathogenic, and it can survive on surfaces for days, weeks, sometimes even months. It can survive in ground soil. It can get on clothing. It can get on skin. Human beings could carry it. Okay. The ostriches are also, if they're asymptomatic, they can shed. They can have the virus, appear to be healthy, and be infecting other birds or contaminating people who come into contact with them. If you go in the pen, the birds may appear to be completely healthy, but if you're interacting with them, if you even touch the feathers, you can get it on your hands. You as a human may not get sick, but you can then carry that virus on your skin, your clothes, on your car, and then drive away 100, 200 kilometers away, get out and shake hands with a farmer at a farm down, in another community. And now he's got it on him. And then he goes in and touches his chickens, and now the chickens are infected. If you go
in the protocol
let me finish.
Yeah.
You can get the virus from contaminated groundwater. You can get the virus if the ostriches are infected and they defecate in their pond, and the pond drains into the stream, it can be carried through the water system. If it gets into
and you have free range chickens.
get into the groundwater. It can get into the well, and that can seep down into somebody else's. There are so many ways. That's the whole issue. It's not about just, oh, those are ostriches, look healthy, it's okay to go in the pen. You once they confirm that there is an outbreak, you don't want people coming into contact with those birds. You minimize human contact as much as possible. You feed them, you water them, you don't go in and handle them. You do not send people in there without proper, protective clothing. You do not mess around with them. But that's not what they've done at the farm. They've ignored all those orders. They've ignored the quarantine orders. They've ignored the order to put up netting to keep waterfowl out. They've just ignored it. They've done nothing. They didn't put up additional fencing as they were ordered. They've just left the place basically as is. And so nothing has been done to stop contact. They're allowing people to go in the pen. The people are coming out of the pen. And that's why they got an additional $10,000 fine. They're accused of violating their quarantine order. Now,
the lady there introduced something that was interesting. Free range chickens, you were mentioning. Who said that?
I did.
Okay, your name. What's your name?
Isabel.
It raised a good question. Okay, because I'll refer to that. When you look at farming operations, take pig farms for example. Their protocol is when they enter or leave that facility, they have to take a shower, put on protective clothing, and the whole 9 yards. Okay, can't just walk into pig barn. Okay, there's a big protocol you have to follow in order to get in there. Now, I would suspect that is the same for chicken farms or any other farm animals that have a high risk of catching disease. Now, as far as the free range chicken goes now, is it your opinion, Isabel, that a free range chicken is more healthier than a barn type chicken?
Well, the barn chickens are confined.
Right.
Really. A free range chicken. Now that poses a problem to the free range chickens with this avian flu, because if they're getting the runoff water,
it doesn't. Not if you've got a proper facility. If you have a proper setup, you can have a free range chicken and still provide biosecurity, but you have to put everything in place to do that.
Okay.
So when you have an ostrich farm, there are rules. There are rules even to just set up an ostrich farm. You have to have proper fencing, netting, permits that you need. One of the reasons they operate where they operate is because they're in a regional district where it's like what you would call an unincorporated community. So it's not like in a municipality, and a lot of people don't understand this, the concept, but municipalities are incorporated. So you get more services when you pay your taxes. I get garbage pickup and stuff here. Out there, being way out in the country and the mountains, basically, they don't get those kinds of services at the same level. They've got a regional district, they've got a landfill, but they don't have the garbage truck come around every Tuesday like they do here to pick up my garbage, right? It's just stuff like that. But there's some fewer rules, and we're actually kind of getting off into a different issue about what's healthier, free range or not, or in a building. But if I could just finish where I was kind of stopping, with regard to how this thing is spreading, this is the real concern for me. And this is also being expressed by the CFIA. Because you've got that pond, and because you do have ducks now that have been basically rerouted, their migratory pattern has been changed, and they're now stopping there all the time. It's not just an ostrich farm, it's become a duck sanctuary. So you've got ducks there all the time. All right. So you've got a constant flow of, a constant risk of infection, reinfection, cross-infection between the ducks, the ostriches. The ducks are flying out, coming back in, flying out, coming back in. The ostriches, even if they get better, they can still get reinfected and get sick again because the ducks are bringing stuff in. And it's not just the ducks. It's all kinds of other wildlife, other kinds of birds that are coming into there. Who knows what they're being exposed to? And then in addition to that, if the ducks, you have to think of it this way, Rudy. This is how this is spreading. Right now, those ducks in the summer are flying. I've looked this stuff up. They would be flying in a radius of about 100 kilometers to 500 kilometers, that flock of ducks, and keep coming back to the farm. And then in the fall, when they fly south, they'll fly up to 3,000 miles all the way to Mexico. So they're going to pick, if they get infected by the ostriches or whatever they're carrying, right, they'll carry that up to 3,000 miles away. And this isn't a one-way thing, because now you've got birds coming from here, coming from there. If this one gets a new strain, it brings it to the farm. The ostriches get infected. They can pass it on to the ducks. The ducks are then flying over here. So that's just another method of transmission. Plus, the water supply is there. That can get off the farm. This is why the CFIA wants everything controlled. They want the netting put up. They want proper fencing. They don't want wildlife coming in. They don't want ducks coming in. I get it. I don't know why other people are not seeing this. It's again, John, if he was here, common sense, right?
Yeah.
And so,
would you not want
it's not enough. It's not enough to just hear from the farm owners who say, our farm is too big. It's just not possible. Well, if your farm is too big, then you need to build a fence in a smaller area and just keep them penned in a smaller area. You can still leave them, Isabel, like to be free range, but maybe not over the whole property. And then do whatever you have to do to mitigate the risk.
My question too was, they're not really the owners of that farm, are they?
Well, that's open to question, because we've seen court documents where it appears that they were having financial problems, and then a family named the Quigleys agreed to offer assistance, and they ended up buying, according to the court documents, if accurate, and I don't know because we didn't get to talk to Katie about that last night before she signed off, 326,000 in that range that they apparently paid for the property. They appear to be the owners, but the Espersons and the Espersons continued to stay on the farm. It looks like they were paying rent in the range of about $1,200 per month. Then this Dave Belinsky, co-owner, moved into another building and has been living, or was living in the building or something. And that complicates things, because this turned into a dispute, something resembling a landlord-tenant dispute and a property rights dispute, an ownership dispute, with a question about maybe some of the property being returned to, I think, the Espersons through this court case. So there's a dispute that's ongoing, and the Quigleys also wanted to get to use the property to do some hay farming. But because you've got, these people living on the farm, they haven't been able to enjoy the Quigleys haven't been able to come in there and use the property. So that's what I was reading. I don't know how accurate that is. That's what has been posted on social media and in a court document. So I'd like clarification on it. We weren't able to get it from Katie last night.
If I was the owner of the land and this was going on, I would be pretty pissed off that they're causing all this trouble on my land.
Well, it's interesting that this family appeared to be friends, or were friendly, and provided the money as some sort of a financial assistance, and then it turned into a dispute.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just going to finish off on the farming aspect. This will bring into question now as to the cost of what it will cost to actually run a farm. Because I think securities have to be put in place, preventive action as far as keeping your livestock safe would be a very key factor. So this is going to mean if you're going to get into this kind of farming, whatever that may be, that certain regulations are going to have to be imposed to start protecting, because it's not just this guy's farm. It's this guy's farm and that guy's farm and this guy's farm. You know what I mean? You don't want one farm like this, the ostrich farm, producing this problem, and it able to catch on to this farm and that farm and this farm and whatever.
Yep.
So this opens up a whole new can of worms, this thing.
It sure does. I would say it appears that this
The
farm
cost
may
of
not
farming.
actually be the solution. It may actually be contributing to the problem. That's why the CFIA
Exactly.
is so concerned.
Yeah, but it opens up a lot of can of worms to other livestock, because that's your food supply.
Right.
So that's where the concern becomes a concern.
And
that if I'm investing X number of dollars into this livestock, I don't want my livestock infected because these guys down the road don't know how to farm properly. You know, I mean, regarding what they're doing. And they're sure not being very open with a lot of things. So that poses a problem.
Yes, when Rick last night asked for clarification, he really didn't get it from her.
That's
she
the problem.
took it as, well, I came on here to answer some questions. Well, we want clarity. Like you
Yeah,
want
no
them to
shit.
be transparent in the government, but you're not being transparent.
Yeah, no shit.
That struck a
Exactly.
nerve last night.
Yeah.
That really poses a big question mark,
Yes.
to say the least. I think that that's going to be the big question here, as to what all farmers now are going to have to do to prevent themselves from being put into a critical position.
And look, it's about the
of losing their entire stock.
It's about the welfare of the ostriches as well. You need to be able to provide a proper sanitary and safe environment for the animals. We've seen through the court documents that some of these ostriches have passed away, that then they've died because of injuries, apparently slipping on ice and then getting tangled up in fencing and becoming severely injured, running into fencing, entangled. So it just raises questions about that. Plus being infected with the bird flu. So you end up with 69 dead. That's because they didn't prevent exposure to infected waterfowl. And if we know that the ducks specifically are a reservoir for bird flu, then you should be taking steps to make sure that your ostriches don't come into contact with ducks. But they haven't done anything.
We also found out that lead poisoning is also a contributing factor with these ostriches too.
Lead poisoning?
I mean, they got two of them got shot.
Oh, well,
you know what I mean? Lead poisoning.
I want to make
absolutely.
I'm not going to try to make any assumption here, but you know what happened in February? I mean, we had a farmer in Ohio who basically died from that strain of H5N1, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, to go with what Rick said earlier about the transmission and the way that things are transmitted, I wouldn't say that the same bird or the same duck that was present at the farm are directly involved into that in that one Ohio guy being infected, but it's present basically the proof, I would say, that 5 years of this basically going on could probably be one of the precursor of that situation in Ohio.
Yeah.
So it's indirectly involved, I would say.
Yes, because it's been going on for 5 years. You're right, Dragon. Yeah. What scares me is when I see the people, like the owners, they're in that pen. She's been around those birds. She's coming out. She's hugging people. She has no idea if people are immune compromised.
Yeah. There's that.
No
too.
idea.
Yeah. Incredible.
And how fair it is for other farmers that actually is respecting the protocols and do whatever they need to do.
Yeah.
Compared to the Universal Ostrich Farm, which basically don't look at all the all those protocols that you need to respect.
That's
preposterous.
That's the hidden risk. It's not that these birds pose a threat to human health directly, But
No.
when the people at the farm come into contact with the birds, and then with no protective clothing on, and then come out and hug other people who are there,
Yep.
they can then get the virus, if present, on their clothing. And then if they leave, they go down the road, they're spreading it in the community. They can spread it from here to there to there to here. It can end up at the farm. They say these farms, we're 100 kilometers away from the nearest farm.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but if someone gets in a car, how long does it take to drive 100 kilometers or 130 kilometers to the next nearest town? Or to go from there to a place, down the road, and then somebody picks it up there, and then they go to another place. You see,
I think though that involves the fact that we have to look at this,
but it's
very
to the animals.
scientifically.
It's to the animals.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to look at this very scientifically,
and
as well.
that is scientific. Yeah.
But anyway, guys, I gotta go. I thanks, Rick, for having me on the show again.
Thank you, Rudy.
Good to meet the panel there.
Yeah.
And it's been a slice.
So just one last thing, Rudy.
Go ahead.
We know now. Well, they say that 2 of these birds were shot. If we believe that, then we've got gunplay at the farm in the middle of the night, where it appears, if we believe them, that someone snuck onto the property twice on 2 different occasions under the cloak of darkness, and then shot 2 of these birds on 2 separate occasions in the dark.
Right.
Do you think that's a safe place to take your kids?
Well, I mean, not only that, but they've got other people out there supposedly handling security. Why wouldn't they have caught on to who did it and all this kind of stuff? So it poses a problem with not only security, but it also poses another problem of what the hell is actually going on out there.
Yeah, they say they have people surrounding the farm. They have their phones with cameras and video ready to go at a moment's notice. They're monitoring everything 24/7. They have the place under total surveillance, and yet twice somebody sneaks in and is able to shoot 2 birds.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you be able to capture something? Like if you've got all this in play, and that's what they're saying on social media. They've got all this in play. Why would not someone capture something? That's a big puzzle.
Yes, because they're very adamant that they've got security, but I guess not then.
Yeah, it's a very, it opens up another can of worms of mystery and intrigue. So this is quite interesting development.
Unless they knew those birds were sick. And they pinned it on these are attacking us, and they did it themselves.
Yeah, I wonder. Something doesn't sit right.
But
well, that's
I said it yesterday on comment, and I'll put it out there. Did Jeff yesterday when you said something like, "I wouldn't mind kids to be there," and so on, even though there's some gunshot killing whatever what. I said something along the way that. Did Jeff did heard any time in his life of a lost bullet that kills some innocent people? That can happen.
Yep.
Oh yeah, stray bullet. Yeah, that would bring a lot of concern. I would think, with all this talk that they've got going on with, we've got security, we've got this, we've got that. Well, why wouldn't you be able to capture that happening? This comes down to what the hell is really going on here, as far as maybe they want more publicity or whatever it is. I don't know, but it's just an underhanded way to put more sympathy on the situation of, look what happened now. It's crazy.
And you want to bring in bouncy castles and cotton candy?
Yeah. Let's not forget the bouncy castles and all of that good stuff there going on. And this is really turning over another leaf of what the fuck is going on. you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, Rudy, thank you
Anyway,
so much
thanks
for
again,
calling
guys. I appreciate coming in and
That's great.
giving my 2 cents.
All right, stay with us,
Nice
folks.
talking to you, Rudy.
You guys stay on the line, and we're going to come back after this, and then we're going to talk about halal killing.
Did you want me to stay on line?
You can if you want, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm just going to run a little promo and take a short, 60-second break here, and then we'll be back to talk about that, because Katie was saying that, prior to this, they were killing their birds using halal killing, and we're going to explain what that is when we come back after this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, and if anybody else would like to call in, we're at 1-647-734-4220, and you just punch in that PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the number sign, and that'll get you into the call here tonight on Maverick News, and we're back at it. So it's on the bottom of the screen, by the way, that number. So feel free to call in and join the conversation, especially if you're a new caller. It'd be great to get some new voices in here. But last night, Katie Pasitny, the daughter of Karen Esperson, who is the co-owner of Universal Ostrich Farms, I was asking her a little bit about, the ostriches and them using them as, their business model was they were raising them for food prior to 2020. And then she started to talk about how the birds, how they would be killed if they were culled by the CFIA. But I asked her, about them being used for food and if the birds had rights, and if they had rights, how could you send them to slaughter? She indicated that they used halal killing to slaughter their birds when sent for food. I thought that was interesting. I was surprised, actually, to hear that. Does anybody know what halal killing is?
Is that not where they split the throat and let it bleed?
Yeah, so I'm just going to get a proper explanation.
Because they don't like the animal. They don't like to kill the animal. They like it still, as they call, fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is cool.
Yeah. So halal killing, I'm just reading about it here, so that I'm not trying to do this from memory, so I get this accurate. Halal killing of an ostrich follows Islamic dietary laws to ensure the meat is permissible for consumption by Muslims. The process and its rationale are rooted in Islamic principles of humane treatment, cleanliness, and spiritual purity. So halal killing process for an ostrich would include the slaughterer, who must be a mentally sound Muslim of legal age, makes a clear intention to slaughter the animal for food in accordance with Islamic law. The ostrich must be healthy and free from disease at the time of slaughter. It should be treated humanely, kept calm, and not stressed or mishandled. The animal must not witness the slaughter of another or see a sharpened blade. A very sharp knife is used to ensure a swift and clean cut, minimizing pain. The blade must be appropriate for the size of the ostrich, which is a large bird. And then there's invocation. The slaughterer recites Bismillah Alu Akbar. Translation, in the name of Allah, Allah is the greatest. Immediately before the cut, dedicating the act to Allah. Cutting the throat. The slaughter involves a single swift cut to the throat, severing the major blood vessels, the jugular veins, and cardioid, I can never pronounce that, carotid arteries, windpipe, and esophagus, but not the spinal cord. This ensures rapid blood drainage and quick loss of consciousness. The ostrich is positioned to allow maximum blood drainage, as consuming blood is prohibited in Islam. The animal must be fully dead before further processing. After the slaughter, post-slaughter, the carcass is inspected to ensure it meets halal standards, and the meat is handled in a clean environment, free from contamination with non-halal substances. So why is this used? Religious compliance. Halal slaughter ensures the meat is lawful, halal, for Muslims to consume, adhering to Islamic dietary laws derived from the Quran and Sunnah teachings of Prophet Muhammad. Ostrich is considered halal as it is a bird with permissible characteristics, not a scavenger or predator. Humane treatment. The method emphasizes minimizing animal suffering through a sharp blade, quick cut, and calm handling, aligning with Islamic principles of compassion toward animals. Draining blood reduces the risk of bacterial growth and ensures the meat is clean, as blood is seen as impure in Islamic law. The invocation and intention dedicate the act to Allah, fulfilling a spiritual requirement and reinforcing the connection between faith and sustenance. So there are specific considerations for ostriches. Ostriches are large, strong birds, so restraining them safely is critical to avoid stress or injury to the animal or handler. As we know, they can break your leg or even kill you if they become too aggressive. The size of the bird requires a skilled slaughterer and a larger, sharper blade than for smaller animals like chickens. Some Islamic scholars debate whether stunning is permissible before slaughter. If stunning is used, example, for safety with large animals like ostriches, it must not kill the animal or cause irreversible damage, ensuring the animal is alive at the time of the cut. And ostrich meat is consumed in some Muslim majority regions, particularly in parts of Africa and the Middle East, where ostrich farming is viable. Halal slaughter ensures the meat is accessible to Muslim consumers. The process aligns with global halal food standards, supporting trade and consumption in Muslim communities worldwide.
So, if people knew that all their ostriches were killed in this fashion, I don't think the regular consumer would want to buy it.
Well, I mean, when I go to the grocery store, they have chickens there. You know, you buy those roasted chickens, and some are halal and the others are not. So people have a choice. But, you know, I was aware of what halal killing is all about. But there's,
I was too.
Yeah. So basically they cut the throat of the bird.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Which to me is the cruelest way to do it.
Sounds pretty painful to me.
Yeah, it sounds pretty painful to me. And again, when and a lot of the things that I've been reading from people who were in that faith and who've come out against it now because they suddenly see that Allah that they follow has been one of the cruelest leaders ever. And yet they follow this by slitting their throat. To me, which is the cruelest thing you can do to an animal. You cannot keep an animal calm. I'm sure the animal senses it's there for a reason. To just stand there and you know, you're going to do this prayer over the animal, and then you're going to slit its throat right back to the spine and no more. and then they drain the animal. And I'm thinking, no, 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 that's not being gentle with the animal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not judging. I'm just, that's what she said. That's the way it was done. I know some people have issues with it. People can assess for themselves and make their own decision on where they come down on that.
Yeah, I have seen it with other animals, bigger animals. They're not that maybe, I don't know if they eat cows. But I've seen it with large, I'm sure it was a cow that they did it with, that they slit its throat. And I thought, oh my God. Okay, that was it. That was a vision I still can't get out of my head. Because I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, see, with chickens too, like I think even conventional methods involve slitting the throat or chopping the heads of the chicken off to kill them, but they stun them first so they don't feel anything.
Yeah. I mean, no. That's really got to take a callous person to do that to any animal.
Yeah. But, you know, no stunning is generally used in traditional halal slaughter.
Yes.
It was interesting. You know, I understood why Katie didn't want to talk about it last night, but, you know, she was eager to talk about how they were going to be culled and the methods. And so too was Dr. Pellick. He was, you know, right there to talk about them being executed.
Yes.
By being shot.
And not euthanized.
Yes.
Yeah,
So words are important, right? But when I said, well, tell me what is involved in halal killing, what, tell me about the procedure. No, I didn't want to talk about that. I wouldn't talk about it because that doesn't look good. See, that's what I mean. This is what people are getting out there and online. You're getting a story, not the story. You're getting a narrative with cherry-picked information. And it's not what you're being told, it's what you're not being told that should be of concern to people.
Yeah.
So you want a full picture, you want honesty, you want transparency, but I don't think we're really getting it.
We're not getting it because as soon as he said that word executed, no, we're not putting them in front of a firing squad.
Yep, that's spin.
They're going to be euthanized. And usually with some, I mean, I've had to euthanize a dog.
Yeah.
And what they did was they gave her a sedative first. And then they euthanized her. So she was asleep.
Yeah.
And they brought her out to me, which was, I couldn't take it, but they brought her out to me and she was already gone. And even the vet said, he said, you know, she's so old, her heart stopped. But we have to continue with the euthanization.
Yeah.
Because we're professionals and we're under law to do that. And that's what he did. Yeah. But that's not execution. That is not execution.
Right. That's euthanizing.
You know what? I'll tell you this, okay? And I'm just going with a scientific point of view here, okay? Back when people were guillotining for, you know, in France, you know, people were being shut off because of being, you know, criminal and whatnot, right? So there's some school of thought that this was probably not a good way to die because some were thinking, and there's some scholar that did try to see if people that were being cut off were still conscious after being cut off, right? And some suggest that it is your brain still function after after that blade cut your head off. So I mean, if that's a thing, and if it's true, which we don't really know, but if it is, I mean, you think that an ostrich does not know what's happening to her or to them? I mean, no, they're really in the known. I mean, they're conscious enough to know what's going on with them, I'm sure. So that's just another point of view, but it's just it's an analysis.
Yes. I was I don't know if I want to go down this road, but I was listening to a doctor who was doing wasn't a podcast. He was doing a video, and he was saying that when people donate organs, those people may be brain dead, as they say there's no brain function, but they cannot harvest organs from dead people. That's what he was saying. Because once the person actually dies, the organs die because there's no oxygen to the organ. And that made me think. That really made me think. I'm like, wait a minute.
I don't know. That's a whole other issue. I'm not sure that's accurate.
Well, he was actually talking to these students, and he was telling them to make sure when they do a diagnosis, because some people are on these machines to keep them alive, and they say, oh no, they're gone, and they're actually not gone. Some of these people can actually come back. Like they haven't actually passed yet, but they're diagnosed as being brain dead. And I'm like, wow. But it makes you wonder about the consciousness, right? I still think euthanization of the animals is, and I know that's what the CFIA is going to do. It's not execution. And it will be quick, painless, and quick. What they were doing for food was not painless.
Yeah, and Isabel, I'm just looking it up here, and I think that's absolutely incorrect. In fact, I'm seeing it here. In order for the organs to be harvested for transplant, the donor must be legally dead.
Oh, he was saying that they couldn't.
Yeah, you cannot. No, you can't. I mean, it just even legally, you would be killing a person if they were still alive and you harvested their organ. You'd be killing them by taking the organs, and that would be in itself either murder or euthanasia, depending on how you look at it. But no, the people have to be dead, and then they only have so much time after someone does pass on in order to harvest organs for transplant. That's why they have to rush, and that's why they'll if they say a heart, and there's actually right here there are helicopters that go over my house that are specifically for the transplant program. Because they do a lot of it up in London at the hospitals.
Yes, we have them here.
Yeah.
We have them here too. You have the orange that flies over.
That's exactly right. And they stop at the hospital near my house, and then they head over to London sometimes. I see them all quite often. And so they pack they pack those organs in ice after harvesting them, and then they zip them straight up to London by helicopter as quickly as they can so that the operations can be performed.
I know the two hospitals in London have the heliports.
Yes, that's right. They do here too. Yeah. And somebody's just joining us on the line. Who's there?
It's Brian Howell.
Hey, Brian, how are you today?
Hey, Brian.
I'm okay. The subject matter is getting really dark and gloomy,
Executing, if I could, speaking of gloomy, just before we move on, can I just draw attention to the killing method of the birds? if they are culled, I've been researching this claim that they're going to be shot. There's no evidence at all, no credible evidence to say that is actually going to happen. There were people talking about it on social media. That was a narrative that was spun up, but that's not the way the CFIA does it. And if that was done there, I don't think it will be done that way. And these claims that a gun club was contacted but refused to do it, I'm not sure that any of that is even accurate. So I want actual proof of that being the case, because the CFIA has stated publicly that the birds will be euthanized humanely. That's not shooting them in the head and getting a gun club to go out there and start taking pot shots at them in the corral, okay, where they can then stampede and run into the fences and kill themselves that way. No, that's not the way it would be done. But that sure does make for a good story, doesn't it? And why would we let facts get in the way of that?
By the way, Rick, I did send you a email not so long ago, probably 20 minutes ago, on your Gmail of the way that they would be disposed, basically, by the protocol of the CFIA. So you can look it up, and that's going to answer people, I think.
All right. And Brian, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, what's the halal method? What is the other method?
Well, I know what the method for chickens is, and at least in the case of the other method, they would stun the bird first, so that they don't feel anything, right? And that I think they have a tool or a device that they use that they put to the head, and it knocks them, and just knocks them right out. And then they slit the throat after.
Well, I'd like to just lighten things up a little, if I may. Can you give me a minute or so? It's, the Espersons, they have their YouTube channel, and I've seen a few of their clips. They have fun facts about ostriches.
Mm.
Well, I've got a little bit of a fun fact about ostriches I'd like to share, if I may.
Sure.
Well, a scientific study found that 70% of ostriches like to hit on, suck up, or schmooze up to a human being. And they often try to solicit sexual intercourse with a human being because human being, gives ostrich food. Human being take care of baby ostrich. Human being give ostrich water. And maybe, just maybe, human being look attractive to ostrich. Whether human is natural born boy person or natural born human girl person. It was actually an ostrich farmer, not the one in BC, who noted the mating displays in their ostrich flock. And they reported their findings to a university, who sent a biologist and a sex researcher out to observe this strange phenomenon. And this study is true. It actually happened. It won the scientist the Nobel Prize in 2002 for biology. Dr. Charles Paxton and a few others in a study called Courtship Behavior of Ostriches Towards Human Beings Under Farming Conditions in England. Hey, Rick, welcome to Sex Ed for Seniors.
In a related matter, I believe a part of the quarantine order from the CFIA was that the farm was supposed to separate the birds so that they cannot reproduce because they have been infected. And what have we been watching over the last number of weeks? They keep calling it ostrich porn because they keep showing the male birds doing their dance, and it's mating season, and they're just letting them do their thing right there on social media. That in itself,
and people are videoing that.
I believe the information that I have, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but they're not supposed to be letting those ostriches fornicate because they don't want them. The CFIA said they're infected. Stop letting them reproduce.
Yeah. Well, then you're going to get a lot of frustrated roosters.
Ostriches, yeah.
Who might be really friendly.
Last night's show was a doozy of a show, Rick. All 7 hours. You set a new record.
Yes. Oh my. Yeah. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe it went that long. Yeah.
Oh.
What did you take away from it, Brian? What did you think at the end of it? Did you learn anything? Did you change your opinion? Where do you stand with it all after listening to that?
Well, I think Dr. Pellick was right on the money with his stuff about the sciences and microbiology, and that all rings true. Maybe he gave some of it a little bit of a spin, but he's pretty accurate. And my main complaint was about David. He just kept interrupting Dr. Pellick all the time, and his audio was so low. Sometimes I just heard a grumbling in the background. The other guy, Jeff, he his volume was up full blast, it seemed. I mean, he came across like a jerk, but I'm call me a callous bastard, but David Dixon just struck me as someone who is extremely obsessive compulsive about this ostrich thing and the COVID-19 pandemic going back a few years. And it's like, come on, why doesn't he enjoy his retirement? He's not working at Scotland Yard or the Home Office anymore. Enjoy your retirement. He struck me as just being too clinical, and he never let Dr. Pellick really properly respond. And maybe even yourself, Rick, you could have let Katie just talk.
Just talk. Just let her say whatever she wants to say, and let her repeat
Well,
the same stuff as that we've heard on these other programs, without being asked any real questions. Yeah, just let her.
I mean,
talk.
you could ask a couple of probing questions.
A couple of probing questions, but don't get into the real details. Just let her spin her narrative.
Yeah.
Do you want the truth, or you just want
you do
just
that
want to be
for
told the
others,
feel good story?
I beg your pardon?
Do you want the truth, or you just want me to let her make people feel emotional and for the feathery, furry animals?
Well, just let her talk,
Just let her talk. That's not what a journalist does, Brian. I don't just let people talk. I ask questions. And I told her the night before I was going to ask her real questions about the real issues.
She jumped off the show.
That's what. Well, that's not my fault if she doesn't want to answer real questions. If you just want me to say, what did you name that ostrich? How long have you had that one? Do you brush them? How do you feel when you watch them dance? You want me to ask questions like that? How do you feel about them coming in to kill your ostriches? You want me to ask that? Gee, Katie, isn't it going to be awful when they come to your farm and execute your ostriches? Yes, Rick, they're coming in here and they're just going to execute them. They're going to slaughter them. They're bringing in contract killers to murder my birds. You want me to just have her say that? Because they have rights. They're like our pets. These are our pets. We have 400 of them. We have names for each one. They're so special to us. You want me to just have her say that? You don't want me to ask her about, you don't want me to ask her about the donations. You don't want me to ask her. You know what she really got upset about was when I asked her about who is the big U.S. donor who's helping to fund this protest / circus on your farm. Don't you think that's something that
really
should be
wasn't
of concern?
A big donation. It was $10,000, wasn't it?
$10,000. Oh, but that's not a big deal. We're not supposed to say anything about that. And she wants to hold the federal government accountable, or the CFIA accountable. She wants to hold everybody else accountable, but she doesn't want to reveal who it is from the United States who pumped 10 grand in there. And she's saying, well, if they're just buying food for everybody. No, they're not. They're by buying food. You know what they're buying? I'll show you what they're buying. It's not just food. It's what I was talking about last night. Let me show you.
And you don't cross borders. That's the thing.
Here's the thing, Brian. This is what they were buying. They were buying food. F-U-D. Farmers Underground Directory. It's fuck you. Food. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Fear, uncertainty, disinformation. They're buying food, all right. They're funding the protest. They're making it possible for the protesters to come, making it possible for the bouncy castles to be there for the children. But you did I hurt her feelings? Well, you know what? It's the facts don't care about Katie's feelings. And I would like for Katie to like me. And she seems like a very nice lady. But Brian, my job is to ask questions, not to be popular. So don't call up here and criticize me, lest I criticize you for criticizing me for doing my job, which you quite often criticize me for and say, you should be doing this, Rick, and you should be doing that. And fair enough, you can come on here and criticize it, but don't be surprised when I push back, because I'm doing my damn job. I did my job last night. She didn't like it because I asked her questions that made her feel uncomfortable. Too damn bad. People deserve to know. People have been asked to donate money, and lots of it, and they have. Over $250,000. And I think the people deserve some bloody transparency, especially when you're dealing with a virus that is spreading from chicken facility to chicken facility, putting our food supply at risk. That's what's putting our food supply at risk, is the virus that's being permitted to spread. The CFIA has identified that place as a real risk. And people are not taking it seriously out there. They're laughing about it. They're saying it's government overreach. It's quite the opposite. That the government is too powerful. No, it's not that they're showing that the government is too powerful. What they're trying to do there, Brian, is like everything else there. It's upside down. They're trying to show that the government doesn't have any power. They're challenging the government through this protest by defying every order that the government gives them, by not following any rules. They're saying this government is not legitimate. I'm sovereign as an individual over the government. That's the message they're sending. They're saying, I'm more important than everybody else. I, as the farmer, the individual, I'm more important than everyone. It's all about them. They don't give a damn about anybody else. They don't seem to give a damn about the birds. They don't give a damn about the other farmers in the area. They don't give a damn about the people down the street, their next door neighbor who isn't happy about all the things that's going on, you know, in their neighborhood. What about those people? What about their rights? Nope. It's all about the property owner rights, because the birds don't have the rights, but Katie has rights, and they're exercising those rights to an extreme. To a point, frankly, where some people would say it's a point of abuse of other people, because they don't respect the rights of other people. It's because the philosophy behind all of this is flawed. It's because our rights, they'll say, you know, they don't come from government. I'm above government. I'm sovereign unto myself. I'm a sovereign citizen. I don't have to follow the rules if I don't contract with you. But you do have to follow the rules. That's why even Dr. Pellick last night saying, oh, no, they don't need to follow any rules. There's no permits needed for anything they do. Well, there are. You can sit there and say, like I said to my wife playing around with her, I said, oh, we're going to set up our own biolab. I'm going to set up my own biolab. I don't have to follow any rules. She says, well, yes, you do. There are biolabs. And I just said, nope, no, there aren't. Nope, doesn't apply. Because that's really what's going on out there. No, the rules don't apply to me. And then they're using due process in a way that is sort of distorted. And when they lose in court, that's still not good enough. No fair do-over, no fair do-over. Rules don't apply. Let's do it again. And they've been given 6 months of due process. 6-month delay, when normally the government swoops in, and with the cooperation of the farmer who does care about their neighbor, because it's in their best interest as well. They just don't maybe even realize it, but it's in their best interest as well to make sure that their community is taken care of. They cooperate and they say, okay, let's do what we got to do. It's not pleasant, but I'll take the compensation and I will rebuild.
Yep.
That's what's going on out there. This is an assault on our government. And that's why it's extremely concerning to me to see U.S. intervention, U.S. interference in this from RFK Jr., who also has for a long time advocated to just let the disease rip. Well, you know something else, Brian? This is something else that nobody has even really thought of. And I haven't really gotten into this tonight or in any other night. But there's another aspect to this. It's again, food security for Canada.
Yep.
right? Because they're saying that the Katie, and maybe she means it, maybe she's just misguided. Okay, this Farmers Underground Directory, that's a group that was set up by a group that is supporting the ostrich farm. Okay, but they're selling, this is the attitude, they're selling stuff on the international market. They want to start trading food over the borders without any oversight from government at all. They want to sell things to each other in a private membership association so they can get around the law, because again, they don't believe that the law should apply to them, especially when it comes to food. But it should apply because it's about food safety and food sovereignty. So if you sell something to someone that isn't safe and people start getting sick, you want to be able to trace that stuff back. You need regulations in place to make sure that things are properly tested, that there are certain standards made so that people don't get sick or die. That's why those rules are in place. They're there to protect everybody. But there's another thing. It's about food sovereignty. And nobody's actually been talking about this, Brian. And so I take exception to your attitude and what you've been saying to me just now, because it's the opposite of what they've been arguing out there. They're saying that they're fighting for small farmers. Well, I will have you know that 90% of all the chickens that have been culled have, because of the bird flu outbreaks, have come from large corporate operations, not from small family farms. 90%. Now, what's going on? Why was RFK Jr. involved in all of this? Well, it's not being explicitly said, but the United States is going through a process right now of changing their policies with regard to the way their poultry industry is run and regulations and the way they're dealing with bird flu. And what they're really doing is they're lowering their standards because they're saying, just let it rip. The problem with that is that the United States then is like everything else they're doing. They're isolating themselves. Donald Trump removing the United States from all these other international organizations, where the United States, by being part of it, and Canada, by being part of these international organizations where standards are set, we get a voice. And so in order to trade with other countries, to send our poultry to other countries for trade, those countries are only going to accept our poultry if it meets a certain standard. We don't want to inject our birds with vaccines to prevent them from getting bird flu because we want our food clean. And the people in other countries want that food clean. So in order to export it, they're only going to take it if it's not injected. That's why a lot of the chickens coming from China right now, they're not accepted in other countries because they're vaccinated. In Canada, we don't do that because we don't want to feed that to our people. But in the United States, and nor do we want to feed infected meat, infected chickens to people. We don't do that here.
No.
But RFK Jr., he said for a long time, just let the disease rip. Well, what's that going to do to our food supply? It's about supply management. It's about, in Canada, our small farmers are actually protected by our government because we have supply management. So we limit. It's about the tariffs. See, here we go. It's because our government says to the United States, we're limiting how much chicken we will allow you to import into our market. And we are basically going to be self-sufficient and provide our own food supply. So we're going to limit how much we bring in from other countries because we can supply ourselves, and it's food. That's national security issue. That's food sovereignty to make sure that our people are fed. We'll always be able to take care of our own people. And we're doing that by making sure that we limit supply in order to provide, this is an economics thing, in order to make sure that the pricing for chicken is set at a viable level, an operational level for small chicken or chicken farmers in general, but especially smaller family size chicken operations, poultry facilities. That's why our farmers have been able to survive in the face of massive corporate chicken poultry operations in the United States. Well, Donald Trump would love to have more access to our market in order to sell, just ramp up production by 10% and then flood the Canadian market with chicken. And what's that going to do to our farmers? Well, then we either have to ramp up and start to produce at that same level, or we're out of business. And that's going to devastate, destroy every small farm in Canada. And it will make us dependent on what's going on in the United States. Now, more than that, because RFK Jr., see, if the big corporate farms down in the States don't have to vaccinate, if they don't have to, or maybe they do want to vaccinate, maybe they want to adopt that because they are actually still developing vaccines for vaccination. And they just announced, Dr. Pellick and Jeff actually were talking the other way around. They canceled the Moderna $700 million contract for human vaccines, but they're still developing vaccines for the chickens. And they just approved a program for chicken vaccinations in the United States, which means that's coming. So they're going to start to inject all their chickens down in the States. What does that mean? It means that those chickens, they're not going to be exported to Europe. They're not going to be exported to maybe Central America or any other place on the planet where people don't want to eat vaccine in their chicken meat.
Are there any
Canada,
dairy farms in this FUD program?
I ain't done, man. Sorry, what's your question?
Are there any dairy farms in this FUD?
Now you're getting to the end of my soliloquy. Okay, so what's happening now is in the United States, we do export some chicken to the U.S. So we about 135 million a year, I believe. So it depends on the year. And right now, our standards for a lot of agricultural products are much higher than they are in the United States. Chicken, dairy, a lot of things like that. No hormones in meat, where they do use growth hormones in some animals down in the States. That's why a lot of people don't really want the U.S. product up here, right? But they'll put growth hormone into a lot of these animals where we don't do it here because they can get more yield, if you will, from the animals. So these are like non-tariff barriers, but they're still barriers to trade. Trump would like to have more access to the Canadian market because the United States, under RFK Jr. and his plans, and Trump, is to change the approach to the bird flu, which is to say, stop the culling and let it rip. Well, maybe not let it rip, but it's either let it rip and then what are these big factory farms going to do? Maybe change the standards so that they're selling infected meat. Because you heard even Dr. Pellick say, well, if you boil it or whatever, especially with the vaccinated stuff or the stuff injected with the antigens, don't even worry about it. If it's boiled, it's not a big deal. And I've read things like that where, yeah, you shouldn't really be probably wouldn't get sick if you ate meat that was infected with bird flu, as long as it's properly cooked. But do you want infected meat into your food supply? I don't. So I don't think we want to let it rip. And also it would put a lot of these small chicken operations out of business for like extended periods of time, much longer if you have to let the disease run its course and then clear out all the dead chickens and then go through a lengthier process. And then if you're just letting it rip, are these farmers even being compensated at that point for any of the birds that they've lost? Well, you'd have to set up a whole new compensation or insurance program for them. And it doesn't really exist right now. Right now, we have a culling plan where if you cooperate with the government, they'll come in and pay you per head for each of the birds that you lose. So as all of this plays out, why is RFK Jr. and why are they also interested in this farm and what's going on out there? I would suggest to you that one of the things, whether it's intentional or not, the ultimate impact from all of this is that if this farm is successful in challenging the culling policy, then what you're going to end up with is Canada coming into alignment with the United States on their policies, which means that Canada becomes more dependent on the United States for trade, very dependent on even our food supply. If we're not allowed to cull, if we're just going to let it rip through our chickens, it will probably put a lot more small farmers out of business, leaving only big corporate operations. And because you're then going to have to, and it's already being challenged, our interdependency and our tariffs and non-tariff barriers on poultry trade and other agricultural products. This because then the food supply in Canada, the poultry supply, becomes more destabilized. It puts incredible pressure on the industry and government to revise those policies and open the market up to more product coming in from the United States in order to stabilize the supply, to make sure that we still have it in the supermarkets. If we have the disease is allowed to spread through all these farms and you don't stop it, so then you're going to go through periods of time where you don't have enough production. And so, and I used to be more on the side of just free market and let it go, because, but not with regard to disease. I'm just talking about trade, and especially with dairy, okay, and things like that. But not so much anymore. Not since I've seen what's been going on with Trump and the tariffs and now these bird flu epidemics. Because here's the thing. And when I say epidemic, I mean within the poultry industry itself. The thing is, through this bird flu outbreak, Canada has been far more stable than the United States. Just look at what's happened to the prices of eggs on the US side. Skyrocketed because they've still proceeded with the culls and they've had a lot more die-offs, but they don't have supply management. We have supply management here, which is to say we have actually overcapacity built into our system. And a lot of the capacity is bled off, for lack of a better word. They'll destroy eggs to prevent, say, like too many birds being produced beyond the quotas that they put in place. And there are caps put on how much is actually produced in any given time by the farmers that are out there by regulation. So they're only allowed to produce so much. That maintains price integrity and a viable pricing so that the farmers can make a living and have a sustainable economic, like financial operation. It's sustainable financially. But because they have extra capacity, if we have a drop off in productivity, or because there is a bird flu outbreak and maybe a culling that has taken place, or culls in a particular geographic area, there's overcapacity to built into the marketplace. We've made sure that our farmers are working in a viable, resilient, sustainable operation over time. So we've got food security and food sovereignty nationally. But if we just open the market up to foreign competition, if we had years ago, in the face of all this right now, we probably wouldn't even have a poultry industry here. Certainly not a Canadian poultry industry. We would be reliant, probably mostly, I'm sure of it, on US supply. So that's why, because as they change their policy in the States, they need Canada. They need us to be in alignment with them, because they're not going to be able to trade with other countries. They're not going to be able to export their product once they start injecting those birds with their vaccines in order to keep them alive as they let the virus rip. This is the unspoken part of this whole thing. This is, I think, part of what is in play here. It's not the whole story, but it certainly is part of the story. It's an important part of the story, maybe the largest part, because, Brian, it isn't even just about the poultry industry at this point. You just go back and look at the creation of the People's Party of Canada, the populist party that's in alignment with Trump. You start going back and looking at the history in Canada of where all that started. Where did the PPC come from? From the dairy industry. Why?
Yeah.
Because
Maxime
Bernier, the leader of the PPC, was opposed to tariffs, or to tariffs, and not so much tariffs, specifically supply management of the dairy industry. And so
I didn't know that.
Yes. So and I remember vividly, Andrew Scheer won the leadership by 1%. And the reason he was able to defeat Maxime Bernier for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada, where Maxime Bernier had at one time been the foreign affairs minister, very well versed in, foreign matters of foreign affairs, although there was a scandal that sort of cost him his gig. But that aside, it was because Andrew Scheer, it was the dairy industry and supply management that was the key issue in that leadership campaign. And Scheer got up at the podium and made it very clear that he was in alignment with and is supportive of the so-called dairy cartel, as Maxime Bernier would call it, and actually picked up a carton of milk and took a swig in his final address, his final speech, as the votes were being, as they were going through the process of voting. And on the final ballot, Scheer won by 1%. 1%. Otherwise, Maxime Bernier would have been the leader of the PPC. The Conservative Party of Canada.
Yeah.
And then as a result of losing, he ultimately left the party and formed the PPC. It was all about the dairy industry and supply management. And what has Trump been talking about? The dairy industry. He wants access. He specifically mentions and has in the past and did again when he started rolling out this latest round of tariffs. It was all about the dairy industry. He put it on his stupid charts, even held it up and pointed to it and talked about it. Because he says that it's unfair, and it's true. We do have tariffs in place to protect the dairy industry in Canada, but that's not really the entire story. We don't export to the U.S. milk. It's about supplying Canada with a stable supply, food supply. It's about.
Well, we've got a good milk marketing board. So
right. And so the milk marketing board is all about that. It's about quotas for farmers. They can only produce so much milk. That way they control the pricing to some degree in the marketplace so that we're supposed to pay more for our milk. But here's the thing. This is the other reason I'm not so opposed to it anymore. I've sat here within the last 2 months on at least 2 occasions, I've gone online and I've compared the price of milk, say from a Kroger supermarket in Detroit to a supermarket in Windsor, Ontario. And you know how much more we end up paying for milk? Maybe 10 cents, for 4 liters of milk. After you do all the math, convert metric to US and all of that, and then convert the dollar, we're paying about 10, 20 cents more in some cases. And in some cases, it's like even. It's about the same. But we, as a result of these policies, we have a sovereign food system. We are self-sufficient. So in the face of international pressure, international, or in the face of viruses that threaten our food supply, we seem to be coming out in a much more stable, better position. Or in the face of trade wars, we have a food supply so we can feed our people at the very least. So no matter what happens, as bad as it might get with the auto industry or the oil industry or anything else, we have food. Well, that's pretty darn important for a country. And that's pretty darn important to make sure that your country is actually a viable, real thing. Because it's your ability as a country to maintain a peace, order, and good government, right? Well, in order to maintain order, you need to keep your people fed. Otherwise, you're going to have an uprising and pretty upset people. Well, if World War III breaks out, you know who's got food? Canadians, because of our agricultural system. And you know what else we have? We have control over our system. We get to say what goes into our bodies. It also provides bodily autonomy because we get to say whether we're putting hormones in or not. We get to say whether we're injecting our livestock with antigens or not, or with anything else for that matter, because we have our rules. And while people sit there and say, well, you're part of the World Health Organization, or you're part of the WEF, or you're part of the World Organization for Animal Health. Yeah, well, those are guidelines. And whether we like it or not, if you're not part of those organizations, if you want to trade with any other country, you're still bound by whatever regulations those countries you choose to trade with put in place. If you want to export to them, they're just not going to take your product if it's not up to their standards. So too with Canada. We don't take a lot of the stuff from the States because it doesn't meet our standards. We say we're going to produce it for ourselves. That is sovereignty. That means that we don't take a dictation. We're not dictated to by any foreign government or any foreign or even world organization. We take guidelines, but in the course of doing that, we may compromise a little bit here or there in order to facilitate international trade, but that's because we are actually part of those organizations. So we get to sit at the table and we have a voice in formulating those guidelines. But even with those guidelines in place, we're not legally bound to those are not binding things. We still have a say over what happens with our food supply. We get to decide. That's why we have quotas and tariffs and things in place. Even as we belong to those organizations, we say to the United States, yeah, we're part of this international trading organization, the WEF or whatever, but we still don't care. We're going to have supply management for our dairy industry. We're going to have supply management for our poultry industry, because we value our farmers. We value our smaller operations. We value our food sovereignty, our bodily autonomy. We value the right that we maintain and preserve for Canadians to make decisions about what goes into our food, how our agriculture is run. We are not going to be dependent on anybody else anywhere in the world to feed our people. That's really what's at stake. So when I see what's going on at that farm, it's actually quite the opposite, because if they undermine the authority of our government to go in there and cull those birds, even now, if they defy that, if they undermine the authority, then our system falls apart. And when the system falls apart, we're vulnerable then to anything that happens. If it just becomes then anything goes, we have no standards. If we have no standards, we can't trade. And if we have to bring ourselves back into alignment with some sort of standard because there's political pressure coming from the United States of America and big time donors who are funding bouncy castles at a farm in the middle of nowhere in Edgewood, BC, well, then I say, call the damn birds, because the whole agricultural system, our economy, our food sovereignty, our country is at stake. It's really that serious. It's just that it's not really being conveyed to people that way, because it's about more than fuzzy, furry, feathery animals. It's about filth. It's about a virus infecting things and killing inhumanely chickens by the thousands and millions whose brains swell up and they bleed out internally. But listen to RFK Jr., Mr. Chemtrail, who's like, just let her rip. Don't euthanize them. Just let them suffer and die. And you know, there's a eugenics aspect to this too, because these farms, what were they involved without a universal ostrich farm? Selective breeding. They're trying to, through selective breeding, create a superior strain of ostrich. Only the strong survive. Let the weak die. Let all the weak ostriches perish. Let all those sick chickens, if they get sick, just let her rip. Don't worry about the weak ones.
Why haven't the CFIA gone out there yet and done?
Because we respect people's rights in this country, because we are a democracy. We're not a dictatorship. We're not an authoritarian regime. We do give people due process and we respect property rights. Not that the ostriches have any damn rights, but Katie does. And so does her mom, Karen. So does Dave Belinsky, the owners of the farm. We respect their rights and we do give them due process. And so when they sit there and say, no fair, government overreach, no, they've had plenty of due process, and the system has honored and respected their rights. They've had ample opportunity at this point to challenge all of this in court. So they had a stay through the courts preventing the CFIA from going out there and performing the cull. And now you've got and then after they lost in court and they're like, no fair, do-over, no fair, government overreach, after 6 months,
it's a bit much.
Now you've got the protesters and the bouncy castles right on cue to again now, and people apparently throwing rocks at CFIA employees when they're driving around in the area. So, and you know, possible confrontations, talk of gunplay, like all of this and all this public relations propaganda pressure that's being brought to bear on this thing, and a narrative that's been spun up to just portray the birds as victims and they're going to be murdered when they have no rights, but they were being killed by halal method until 2020 and just used for food. No, man, it's a circus, and it's upside down, because we do respect the property rights. And even now we've delayed the call again, because we've given the farm the opportunity to again challenge it in court. We've actually given them the do-over in the face of this threat. While the mallards are still flying in and they've defied the quarantine order and they don't care, and they let Karen go into the pen and get pecked by the ostriches and brush up against the birds and be exposed to anything that may or may not be in there, and then carry it out. And they laugh and say, you can't change the migrant. You can't encourage ducks to stop here. Anyway, that's a lie. That's CFIA misinformation. It's right on their website. No, it's not. It's not misinformation at all. As I pointed out last night, go look at the history of the Jack Miner Bird Sanctuary, where he changed, Jack Miner in the early 1900s, changed the migratory patterns of Canada geese and ducks. And now thousands and thousands and thousands stop in Kingsville every spring and fall, because it's a safe place where they can get a bite to eat. And it's a tourist attraction now. And people laughed at him back then. You absolutely can change the migratory patterns of the ducks. And if you can do that, you can also put up some freaking netting to make sure that your birds aren't exposed to waterfowl that are a reservoir of H5N1. And you can take other steps too there to make sure that you're providing a proper facility for your birds so that they're not exposed to wildlife in a way that can put them at risk, or to not only put them at risk, but also potentially spread disease, so that they're not running into fences and dying, so they're not slipping on ice and dying. Or are they actually dying from that? Were those birds actually shot? Were they? Because when I'm looking at the neck of that thing, they're saying it's an exit wound, but it sure looks like a knife slice to me. And so why is that? It doesn't add up. I showed the picture on here, and I'd have to go looking for it right now. Wasn't prepared for this right now, Brian, but my God. And where are all the birds? We're getting verbal assertions that, you know, oh, there are this many and it's 400 here, but I'm like, there's at least 20 or 30 that I can't account for just from what they've been talking about. Where are the rest? What's going on?
Did they get the bullets from the dead birds?
Well, no.
That were supposedly shot. No?
How much investigation is the RCMP going to put into a couple of dead birds? Even though, and then when they're asked to investigate and surveil the place, then the cops are criticized by the protesters, saying, well, "Why are you surveilling the place? Don't you trust us? You're just spying on us because you don't think we should have the right to protest." Government overreach. No, you asked for surveillance. Yeah, they're going to surveil everybody, including you, because you're a suspect too at that point. Because when cops do their job properly, they don't take anything off the table when they start making an investigation.
For your backyard biolab.
I'm sorry, what?
Acme Biolab.
What about Acme Biolab?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. I think are we losing Brian? Well, that's my tirade tonight. That's my speech.
Brian was giving you a name for your backyard biolab.
Oh, Acme Biolab. Well, yeah. Well, we've got to, you know, if you... I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Everything I've said is true. Every damn thing.
This is not just a pandemic that could explode with the animal. This could become a food pandemic on our food.
It could become it is an issue of food stability, Isabel. That's what's at the heart of this whole thing. We're trying to make sure that our food supply is stable, that it's clean, that it's not going to kill people or make people sick, that it's going to keep people healthy. And I don't know about you, but you can tell me that it's safe to eat chicken as long as you cook it if it's been infected with bird flu. But I don't know about you, but I don't really want to eat birds that have been infected with the bird flu.
No.
So
I don't care how much you boil them eggs, I ain't going to eat them.
That's where I'm at, and I don't really want to eat a lab animal.
No.
And I'm just talking about the bird flu end of it here. Now you've still got the biolab stuff that is of extreme concern to me, and I'm sorry, Dr. Pellick is saying, "Oh, it's no big deal. You can get that stuff at the pharmacy, or just call up this lab." And I'm going to call him tomorrow. I'm going to ask if I can buy some to set up our biolab, since everybody's doing it. And that's the other thing. If it's so easy and anybody can set up a biolab in their backyard, basically, or out on their farm, if everybody can do it, then why is this operation so unique? Why is this operation? Why does it have to be saved? Just because, I don't know. It's easy. Anyone can do it. You don't even need a permit to run an open air bio research facility where you're injecting birds with, whether it's a pathogen, as David would assert, and I don't think that it is actually a straight up pathogen, or an antigen.
Yeah.
The antigen is a protein, but that's because it's been rendered or supposed to be rendered neutral or inert. But even then, if you're conducting experimentation, you don't know what the result is going to be. And it's actually a portion of the virus, or it is a synthetically produced derivative or equivalent of the virus. And therefore, you're injecting it into an animal and as an experiment. And therefore, by definition, as an experiment, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You have a hypothesis, but when you're doing something novel, new, research, you don't know what you're going to get. And when you're messing with the immune systems of these birds, and it says right on Immune Biosolutions website, which Universal Ostrich Farms was working with, it says right on there that they are hacking the immune systems of chickens.
Yep.
And therefore, they're doing the same kind of research to produce antibodies that would then what? What are they doing to the ostriches if they're not doing the same damn thing? And if you're messing with the immune systems, and you clearly are, because you're stimulating the immune system to prompt the production of antibodies artificially. If you're doing that artificially as an experiment, you don't know what it's going to be doing to the immune systems of those birds. You really don't know. And therefore, I'm questioning, why are these birds getting sick? Whether they're injected with a pathogen or an inert substance or a portion of a virus that's been rendered, non-transmissible, or whatever you're doing out there, it's an experiment. Why did these birds get sick? Why did they die? Well, we know it's because they became infected with the bird flu. Well, I guess their immune systems weren't strong enough to prevent them from getting infected. Okay, well, so I can go on and on about this, but the reality is this is a mess. And it's not a proper research facility, as the CFIA has pointed out in court, in their documentation. It doesn't meet the standards, but they don't care because the rules don't apply, don't need a license.
But like Dr. Pellick said last night, like you tried to ask him, he hadn't seen the actual antigen that she was purchasing. So he doesn't know, and he wouldn't come clean with it. Oh no, but it's an antigen, and I work with but you didn't see the one that she had.
And even though, Isabel, if it is an antigen, I still don't care, because it's an experiment, and you're injecting it in order to get a response from the ostrich. All right. Now, here's the other thing. We showed Dr. Tsukamoto in Japan, again, injecting himself, which is extremely unorthodox. Okay. That's pretty weird. Like, not very many researchers will do that. So what I would suggest is, and when they kind of laughed about it and Dr. Pellick chuckled, I thought about that overnight as well, because I do think about things afterward. And I'm thinking, well, if it's that safe and you don't think it's a big deal, let's get a bunch of the antigens and we'll have an injection party. And all you guys out at the farm can all inject yourselves.
Yep.
And we'll put it on video, and you can show us how safe it is. How many people out there want to inject themselves with the antigen that they've been injecting into the birds, like Dr. Tsukamoto did? Any other takers out there? Anybody want to inject themselves with the COVID antigen, that they're the experimental COVID antigen all cooked up by Dr. Tsukamoto? You want to get it injected into your arm there, Isabel?
No way.
Who just joined us on the phone?
My phone just clicked off. It's Brian
How about
again.
you, Brian? You want to inject yourself with the experimental COVID antigen from Dr. Tsukamoto?
No, I think I'll pass.
So do you want me to ask Katie questions? Like, you still want me to just ask Katie if what's your favorite color of ostrich? Or do you want me to do my damn job?
Yeah.
Well, which is it? You putting me on the spot? I'm putting you on the spot.
I felt you could have just let her talk. You could have guided her.
I've heard.
With
Everybody's heard that, Brian, on every other social. They heard it on Shadow Davis. So you just want me to let her repeat the things that she said on the other channels? Because at that point, they're just exploiting this platform. They're exploiting me. They're just exploiting you. They just want access to you. That's what they wanted last night. They wanted access to the platform so that they could then just repeat their narrative and spread their message and promote what they're doing and get people to donate and support them and lose trust in our institutions and buy into the idea that not that our government is engaged in overreach, but that our government has no authority and that they, as individuals, are supreme over everything, that they dictate. But that's not the way our system works.
No, and
But
boo-hooing
you
on
did
camera
give her a
doesn't
full
get me.
hour at
I
the
sure
start of
did.
the show.
Yes, I did, as I promised, and I would have given her as much time as she wanted. She limited herself. I said at least the first hour, I dedicate it to you, so you have a voice, not like 4 other people. They wanted to bring Shadow Davis on. They wanted that Jeff guy wanted to be on with her. They wanted Dr. Pellick on with her. They wanted 3 or 4 other people. And I think they might have wanted Jim Kerr on too. They wanted 3, 4, 5 other people on with me at the same time. And I said, no, it'll be me and Katie. And I'll give Katie time to talk. But I said, I will ask her real questions. It'll be one-on-one. And then we can get down to the nitty-gritty. Then we'll get real information, real answers to real questions, not just, it's narrative. And I told her in advance, I said, I'm not like those other social media podcasts. I'm old school. I'm a fossil. I've been working as a journalist for like 30 plus years. I have a lot of experience and I'm fair, but I'll ask real questions. I'm not just a paid hack. I'm here to serve the people. That's what I did last night. Period. I don't care if people like me or not. I do care. I wish people would like me. I don't take joy in holding people's feet to the fire. I don't take joy in making people feel uncomfortable, especially when I know it feels bad, Katie, that you're facing this trauma of losing your birds. But a lot of this they've brought on themselves because they have not cooperated, and now they risk not receiving any compensation at all. The CFIA does not need to compensate if the farmer doesn't cooperate. If they do what they've done here, the reason is there's a real good reason. It's not because they're being vindictive. It's because it costs us, the taxpayers, money and puts other people at risk. But mostly it's about the legal costs. You take the CFIA to court, it costs us time and money. It not just in court, but just the time involved in dealing with the matter. The staff. Somebody new, I think, is popping on the line here. Who's there? Hello, go ahead.
Hello.
Who's there? Hello. I hear
Hi.
you. Hi, who's that?
It's Lindy Biggs.
How are you tonight, Lindy?
Pretty good.
Great to have you here.
I thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours. What are you thinking?
Well, I guess I got some backlash here. I don't know. My phone's kind of. I actually have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. My question is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it was Katie or Karen. I think it was maybe 2020. She said she walked amongst the birds and she injected them, correct?
Yeah, that's the way they were doing it. Not just at that time, but I guess all the time for all the years they were doing it. Yeah.
Well, my question is, then you brought up the court document last night, and it said that students had come in. And when I looked at the bottom, it said 2024 that the student injected something.
Yeah, it can be certainly looked at that way. Yeah.
I'm wondering, so does that mean these birds were injected with 2 different, perhaps different kinds of?
It's a question. And I don't have the answer. That's one of the things that we could have maybe been able to explore last night, but Katie chose to pop off. Right on, so that's another thing, but I don't know, Lindy. I don't know. What I did take away from that in a different way than David, who presented that information, is it's not even so much about what they were injecting. Like, it's not really even about whether those students injected them. What I find interesting is the conversation I had with Dr. Pellick, who says, "Oh no, it's no big deal. You can get that stuff at the local Shoppers Drug Mart, or you can call this place and get that antigen. It's common. It's nothing. Like, you don't need a permit or anything for it." But then I also remember that Karen told me that they could not import that from Dr. Tsukamoto, especially in the beginning. Couldn't get it. They couldn't get it. So they went to this lab in Quebec, and I'm told they were sourcing it from there. That's the information that they gave me in the interview. She gave me. Now, so here's what I get from it. It's like, now then apparently they were supposed to be able to get this stuff over at some point from Dr. Tsukamoto, but never really heard how. And so we just saw, and so it makes me wonder, right? What are they doing? Have they just been stuffing this stuff in an envelope and mailing it over? Or, as we saw in that email, somebody's bringing it to them. And if they're bringing it to them, what's going on at the border when they arrive?
Yeah.
Are you following what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
What just happened in the States with at Detroit Metropolitan Airport with those two Chinese nationals who were caught with the substance related to fungus, and I think it was it grain? Yeah. Anyway, they're charged with potential agro-terrorism because they were smuggling a substance in to take to the University of Michigan to study it. Now we've got Japanese nationals working with Dr. Tsukamoto, who's been radio silent on this throughout, and an email showing that they were sending students over here to the farm. And they're saying to administer to your birds. What does that mean? I'm less concerned about, exactly who's sticking the needle in. And I'm wondering about the process of getting whatever it is that we're seeing that they were bringing it into the country in the email.
Exactly.
So what happened at the border when they arrived? Like, did they say to Canada Customs, "Oh yeah, by the way, here's the COVID antigen or whatever it is we're bringing in, and here's our permits, and here's our everything, all the paperwork on this. Here's our, our UPS, like here's our tariff, what are the taxes on this? How much do I have to pay? You go shopping over the border, you come back, and you've got you bought $150 of the stuff over to secondary with you. You got to pay your HST.
So were these people muled?
What?
Yeah.
Would they be muled?
Good question, Isabel.
Now you're asking questions like I would ask, and maybe Brian might not like that, but that's exactly where I would be going if Katie were here right now.
They can put that anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly doubt that they said what they were bringing through. I don't think they would have been allowed across if they did. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And unless they put it where the sun don't shine.
I don't know. I have no idea. And here's the thing, right? It's like, how much did they bring? You have 4 birds. They're bringing over, like, how much are they bringing? How often did this happen? See how many questions keep coming up? So, Brian, do you want me to ask questions about that if Katie comes back on? Or do you want me to ask her about, I don't know, what, did Sally Did you have a wedding ceremony for Sally and Johnny, the ostriches?
Yeah, point taken, Rick. Point taken.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an awful lot that's very curious. And I was thinking that the other night when she said they were bringing it from Japan. Wait a minute. How?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How? I mean, we're alert to what's going on in China, Japan, and all this stuff. And then they catch these ones with this, stuff. Well, maybe these ones snuck through and they've been sneaking through and coming as laboratory assistant.
And what did I run on that video last night? They're putting these videos out. There's a video that the farm itself, as part of their team of PR propaganda people, they're putting it out. In the video, they say that the birds have been inoculated, not just with COVID antigens, but MERS as well. And I think it was swine flu or whatever it was. It was like at least 3 other things. But then when Dr. Pellick is on, he's saying, oh, I don't think that's true. I don't think it's right. Well, they're saying it. I didn't say it. They're saying it. And it's up online right now. And that's supposed to be a good thing.
Yes. No.
I don't think that's such a great thing. Not facility.
This has been a real cocktail for those ostriches.
If it's true, if it's accurate, they're saying it, not me.
Yeah.
But they're putting it out there. It's like the reason they're saying it is because in the minds of these people, it's like, this is a great thing. We can make antibodies to solve all these problems. And even the antibodies themselves, again, like what have they actually produced from these antibodies? Hair stuff to make your hair grow? Yeah. Masks that glow in the dark if they come into contact with COVID, maybe. Did they have lozenges that are supposed to what? A nutraceutical to fight COVID. And why does Dr. Pellick even care? Because I watched a video from him who he asserts that COVID only, is like a point whatever percent fatality rate. Really, I don't know. He doesn't even seem to be concerned about it. So why do we even need the study?
But even that 0.%, that's people's lives.
Yeah.
And he was just fluffing it off like, oh, I bought 3 hats today. Excuse me? Those were people's lives.
So I don't know, Lindy, what do you think?
Oh, boy.
Oh. Yeah.
I'll just put it this way.
Absolutely surreal.
Yeah.
I'll just put it this way. Rick gave us basically the perfect recipe for a mutation. Sorry to say, but that's my scientific common sense talking to me. And like I say, I don't have a PhD, but I got common sense in what comes to medicine and science. So, yeah.
Well, you're going to get mutations anyway, but.
Yeah, I guess it just makes you wonder what is this is so out there now. Why is there an investigation with Health Canada? Is anybody asking the questions that you and David have been asked? You don't hear anything.
What I took away from everything that I've seen so far is the CFIA began to ask a lot of questions about the COVID research, which they were not even aware of. And as acknowledged by Karen and Katie, both, that the CFIA didn't even know that they were doing that research until they found out that the birds were dying. Then they go out there and they started asking a lot of questions. And and the farm owners are saying, well, are you really interested in our research? The answer is, yeah, we're very interested in your research. And they told them in the end, we're going to take all your antibodies. We're taking all your research work. We're taking it all. When the call is performed, we're taking everything. They don't like that.
Okay.
Right. So Why are they taking everything at that point? Because they are investigating.
Okay.
But because you've got this legal challenge, it complicates everything. Because you've got the protesters, they're reluctant to go in because they don't want to bust heads. You've got a PR problem. You've got an optics problem. You've got a safety issue. You don't want to go out. You've got children on premises. You're going to go in there with the cops and start arresting
Rick,
people.
Sorry, are you saying that they've already taken the samples?
No.
Pardon?
They have not.
They haven't. So as far as we know, they're still there.
Yep.
And nobody has any of these vials per se.
Not unless they should still be there. They were ordered not to move anything off the premises unless they have.
Well, Katie said they had it at the house, right?
Well, that seems to be the case. So at the time of the call, the CFIA says they would confiscate everything. See, that's the way the cops work. I had an experience with the Ministry of Natural Resources at one time. I ended up going to court over a guy who shot a crow that I put on TV, and they wanted it's a long story. I'll tell it another day, but I learned something from the experience. This is why I'm an old guy, right? I bring a lot of experience to the table. It's not all of it good, but valuable lessons learned. The cops will come in. They're not your friend. And it's not just the cops. It's these regulatory agencies as well. Not to say that they're not looking out for people. They are. They're just doing their job. But you need to realize that when you're talking to them, they're investigating you. They're interrogating you. They might act like they're your friend, but they're interrogating you. So when they were sitting across from Katie and Karen, or the farm owners, asking about the research, they're asking, but if you say something where you tell them that you've broken a rule or broken the law or whatever you've done, or you've created a dangerous situation, then they're going to take action, maybe against you or maybe to help you, but they're going to respond in whatever way they feel is appropriate under the law, because the rules apply. Even if you say no fair, do over, doesn't apply to me. Yes, wife, I can set up a biolab in my backyard. No, you can't. There's a bylaw. No fair doesn't apply. Government overreach. I'm doing it. I'm going down to Home Depot. I'm building a chicken coop in my backyard tomorrow, and I'm going to get a COVID antigen. No fair, no rules. See, because the rules are there. It's just that some people choose to ignore them. And when they came in, they were beginning an investigation, but everything's delayed. But it may come still. It depends.
So at this point, though, they, as far as we know, they don't have any sample from whatever she injected them with or the students.
I would say they probably don't have any of that in hand. No, I wouldn't think so, because they haven't confiscated anything yet.
And they could have got rid of this,
and so for legal reasons, the CFIA has immense power. But even there, where you're starting to confiscate evidence from a scene, my guess is, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm thinking that they probably wanted to make sure that they had all their I's dotted, T's crossed, everything in order, maybe get some sort of a court authority to go in addition to their inherent authority as the CFIA, but also legal backup through documentation and court orders saying we are lawfully allowed to take this property as evidence at the time, not just go in and say, we're the CFIA, we can do whatever we want. So that's probably why they didn't take it at that time. But they're conducting the investigation, and a lot of these things that 99% of the people out there won't understand, that won't realize what's really at play. That's why the people spinning the narrative on the other side are so successful, because they just tug at the heartstrings. Their job is easy. They just say, oh, you can't kill the ostrich, the poor birds, you're going to murderize them. right? And it's a lot easier to destroy something than it is to build something. It's a lot easier to criticize than to create. That's what
And
they're
I
doing.
wonder, I wonder how much antigen they've gotten rid of before they actually get fed upon for a seizure.
Exactly, Isabel. And was it the first that she supposedly has, or did they get rid of that one, or was it this whatever they brought over from Japan? Like that, they've had ample time to get rid of one, the other, or both, and we may never know what was injected unless I don't know, what, like an autopsy of some sort.
And you would have to have that in a special lab to do that. And everybody would have to be dressed totally in hazmats with respirators.
Good point, guys.
Because I just worked in a medical assembly plant, and all we did was assemble a respirator mask, silicone respirator mask. I had to go through 2 clean rooms and be sprayed just to enter the assembly area. Yeah.
And here we have this.
And they're doing this? Come on.
Can I put something in there? And that's what kind of bring me to what, well, actually you all said. Rick said that basically they were doing those experiments back in 2020. But the FCIA didn't came to basically to the notice of what was going on at the farm because of the bird that was killed by the virus. So basically they had no authorities or no authorization by the government or the CFIA or what else, other agency from Canada, Health and so on, to do those experimentation with proper credibility. So to me, basically, it's a form of I would call that there's a name for that, and it's basically a compost lab, or what you call well, the term is lacking on me now, but yeah, you get what I mean. It's basically a lab that is illegal.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
So all that
Like
being said, just to cover, things properly here, anything I've said hasn't been proven in a court of law. I don't know for sure, where they will end up legally on any of this, because I was not there and I don't know. For all as David said the other night, they could have been injecting saline for all I know. Right?
Yeah.
And this could be, and I'm not saying it is, but it could have been a scam just to get, government money flowing into the farm. It could have been that. Or it could be that they're really injected with COVID antigens. They could have been injected with a bunch of other stuff. There's just a lot of open-ended questions here, not real answers. I've said this before. What we really need is a thorough investigation, because there is so much weird stuff going on out there. And maybe they didn't do anything wrong. But from what I'm seeing, well, we just need to look at this much more.
It could be one of 2 things. It could be a big scam to roll over the people to go against the government, like David said. Or it could actually be deviant, that they were actually doing this. So it could be either end.
Very true.
So they start all this hoopla, and then they keep the stuff, and they come in and go, well, they're out there. No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, as Rick said, it's just sailing. And in the meantime, they've gotten all this money and made people uptight and scared, or
it's not even not even so much just about the donations. What I'm saying is, for 5 years, in the court documents, CFIA states that they provided no evidence of actually doing any valid scientific research. Right? So I'm like, well, that's pretty weird. But that's maybe because they weren't properly approved permitting or whatever. But like they're just saying there's no evidence they were doing any actual valid science out there at all. So then it's like, well, maybe see with that, the possibility is that they weren't actually doing any research. So maybe those birds weren't injected with any COVID antigens. And Dr. Tsukamoto has not come out to make any public statements. When I've called Immune Biosolutions, I could not get a straight answer on whether they were actually even working with that lab in Quebec. They've never provided a statement back. I did speak to a PR person who used to work there, who couldn't give me the information that I needed. And that she was there when the $13 million contract was awarded, and that was at the same time that they started work. Anyway, she didn't know, and I've got no answers. They're radio silent. They have not responded at all. They're not saying a word. So what has really been going on? Maybe, and I'm not saying this is what's happened, but maybe there was no actual scientific research going on. And then we're hearing claims from some people saying, well, they never actually got paid. Didn't they? How have they been paying to keep the farm operational? If they went to research and then we're told, but they never actually received any money from the biolab in Quebec, but that's who they were working with. Where's the funding? Like, where's the money coming from? What were they doing? How are they sustaining this? Do you know what it costs to keep 400 or 500 ostriches alive for a year on a farm? At least I researched it. You're looking at least $500,000 US, somewhere in that range, maybe 450,000.
What did that guy that has the ostrich, those 6 ostriches down in Florida? He said what, about 400,000 a year?
That was me doing the research at that time. I said that back then because and yeah, like it's just expensive. That's a lot of coin. So where are they coming up with the money if they're not getting paid? Like every time I turn around, I ask where they get the money. Were they being paid for these eggs? Well, no, that's just a market value. That's what Dr. Pellick was like. It's estimated a market value $45,000 per egg, blah blah blah. Okay, well, who is buying them? Well, they never actually weren't being sold yet, weren't they? Well, that was the business. So what, for 5 years they got no money coming in, and they're paying out $500,000, 400,000, even 300,000 a year just to keep the ostriches alive. This stuff doesn't make sense. Then we see that the farm went
actually selling
financial
Easter,
problems.
they were selling them.
Sorry, Isabel, go ahead.
He said they weren't actually selling, and you brought that up in Easter. They were selling the eggs for $25.
Yeah, but every time I turn around and I ask, like, well, they were working with that lab there. Was Dr. Tsukamoto paying them? And I can't get a clear answer.
No.
And it's always, no, we weren't being paid yet. It's like they're either not, I don't know, because they didn't want to make it look like they were actually taking any government money or what's going on. It just doesn't make sense. You can't run a business for 5 years and have no income, like no revenue coming in. And have all these expenses. And then you see that they've at some point had financial distress, and then the farm, it looks like, was sold. And again, a lot of weird stuff, man. This is like the weirdest story I've ever covered, ever. Weird.
Yeah, and you don't have anybody that wants to dispute it, like the lab they were working with or Dr. Tsukamoto in Japan. Nobody wants to dispute or stand up for them.
Nobody wants to respond.
No.
And when I spoke to the farm owner up in Whitecroft, she was upset, and I understand why. And she was pretty forthcoming, actually, but there's a lot of can't.
That's the one that
it was off the record. Half the conversation was off the record, which is also very weird for me because I rarely would ever do anything like that.
Is that the one that has? Is that the one that has the resort that bought 6?
Yeah, 6 ostriches, and it looks like they've got a really cool facility there. Really cool dog sled thing in the winter. Super nice lady. And again, I feel for them. They're worried about where this is all going to end up. They're worried about the Espersons, and I get that because they're friends, right? They have a kind of relationship, and they don't wish them any ill will. I don't either. But I have a job
the truth needs to come out.
I have a job to do. And it's not personal, and I don't have an axe to grind. I didn't know these people beforehand. I'm just doing my job.
It's very suspicious.
It's just very
There's
weird.
a lot of shit going on down there, man.
Yeah, and I think you've just got other elements that have come into play here because it's not just about the birds. It's not just about the farm. It's not just about the family. It's become very political. And you've got a lot of stuff going on swirling around this place, and that's why it's so weird.
Well, you know what, Rick? I'll just give it to you right here like this. I just make some research about that, and unapproved or unsanctioned research basically is a research facility that has not the permission of the government or the oversight of the committee to endorse and have the necessary permission to carry on the research. So there you have it. The government has actually stipulated that the research is not valuable, and basically it's not a research lab for them. For the government, it's not a research lab. It's just a farm. So it has no authorization to do what they're doing.
I couldn't quite understand where you're going with that. So you're saying that the government only recognizes it as a farm, not a research facility, and therefore that's what gives them the authority to move forward with the cull?
Yeah, well, that's for one, but basically it's like what they have, it's just a farm. It's not a authorized research. Right. So basically it's not a authorized research lab. So basically they have no authority to do those research.
Yeah, the CFIA has stated that. They say it's not a facility that's proper to conduct any research like they're doing. It's not a proper facility. In fact, going further than that, at this point, you could even make a strong argument, and I think the CFIA has, that the farm itself might not even be suitable for ostriches because you've had birds injured that have died because of apparent accidents, and they've failed to comply with the safety orders. No netting, didn't put up the fencing that they were ordered to put up. And then you're getting this excuse, well, the ground was frozen. Yeah, well, it's the middle of freaking June now. And I don't know if they put up any fencing since then. Have they done anything to comply with anything? And so with this history and recurring pattern of just simply not following the rules, it's not just about whether the birds are even ill anymore. It's whether this facility is operating properly. Are they operating within the rules? If they're not, then they're putting a lot of things at risk. It isn't even just about whether the birds are healthy or sick right now. It's about whether those birds can be easily reinfected. Maybe they're reinfected right now. Maybe tomorrow they will be, because they're still being left to run with the ducks. Or maybe,
but we had,
I don't know.
We had an emu farm here in our area. And in the winter, these birds don't do well.
Yeah.
So they had a huge heated barn for 4 or 5 emus. Yeah. Now, emus are not as big a bird as the ostrich.
Yeah.
But they had to be properly heated during the winter. Mm-hmm. With her saying that they fell on the ice, these birds are not adaptable for cold weather, are they?
No, they're from South Africa.
Right. So they don't even, the cold weather here could do a whole heck of a lot of damage to their body system because they're not used to the extreme cold. And they're in, they're where, Alberta, you said?
BC.
BC. So what is the weather in BC in the winter? -30? In some part?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's pretty damn cold for an ostrich that's coming from Africa.
Not in BC. We don't get minus 30 in BC.
How cold
But
does it get in
I
BC?
hear your point.
That's not,
You
it's
know,
not
I
like
mean-
Alberta.
Yeah, that's Alberta. Yeah.
I mean, but just that change of temperature, they're used to high humidity or dry weather.
The point you're making is well taken, though, Isabel, because I'm just looking
Yeah,
it up here, and where those birds are native to, it really only ever gets down as cold as about -5 Celsius.
Yeah.
That's about the coldest it
I
will
mean-
ever get there.
Yeah. I mean, I have a Chihuahua and he was born here in Ontario. But let me tell you, when the temperature drops a little bit, he needs a blankie. And that's just in the fall. He is not accustomed to cold weather. And I look at him and go, oh, you don't even come from Africa and you shiver. I could just imagine these poor ostriches going, what the hell happened to the weather?
Yeah.
You know, and they're
Well, I'm gonna sign off, Rick.
Okay, Brian, my friend.
I've got a name for your backyard lab.
Okay.
Acme Biolab.
Yeah, maybe we get a Roadrunner
Yeah.
logo or something to go with it, right? Yeah.
So anyway, good night, Rick. No hard feelings. No.
No, none at all. I appreciate it. Thank you
Yep.
for calling in tonight, Brian. A pleasure.
Yeah,
as
take
always.
care.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too, Brian. Good night.
I'll be calling you. Don't
Good
worry.
night, Brian.
See you on the flip side.
Okay. Well, let's go around the clock and get a final thought from you guys, and we'll wrap up for tonight.
Oh dear.
Who wants to go first? Isabel, you go first.
You go first. Well, just don't have any ostriches for supper.
Yeah.
Go with chicken or turkey. They don't run quite as fast. They're easier to catch.
Oh, before you guys are done, I have to bring something up here. Okay, you keep going. I have to show you something from Sandy before we sign off tonight too.
So you guys are next.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go next? Do you want to go, Lindy?
Well, let's go. Go ahead. I'll leave it to you.
No, go ahead, Dragon. You go first. I have to think.
All right. Well, I wanted to come with a joke tonight so you can all go down to sleep with a laugh and a positive note. So, how do you call a fish with no eyes?
Fish with no eyes.
Fish with no eyes. I don't know. What do you call a fish with no eyes?
It's really simple. A fish.
A tish.
A fish. There's
I
no
don't get
eye
it.
in it.
I don't get it. I'm a
Now
little-
you get it. Oh.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you're
Take
talking
out
about.
the eye, Rick. S.
S-H. Fish.
What? I'm a little slow. I'm
How'd you
also
call it,
distracted. I'm trying to get this thing up for everybody.
Just take up the I letter of the word fish.
That was a good one.
For goodness sake.
F-A. Fish.
I got a last one for you then. It's going to be a better one.
Let's do it.
How you call a pork doing some karate?
A what? A pork doing keratin?
Yeah, kung fu, if you will.
Oh, karate. Pork chop.
Oh. Pork
You got it. It's pork chop.
Yeah.
That was an easy one.
Man. Okay, Lindy. Lay it on me.
Well, I guess all I really have to say is I just thank you for bringing all this information to us and the integrity that you have and just sticking to your guns and not letting anybody tell you how to do your broadcast. I just really appreciate what you do for us every night, Rick. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
100% agree.
Yeah.
And everybody contributes here, even Sandy, especially Sandy sometimes, and especially tonight, because she sent me this that I want to share with everybody. She says she's a doodler, and she doodled this for us. Here it is. So there's a little sunshine from Sandy tonight. Thank you, Sandy, for sending the cute ostrich. But I think you're on the ostriches side out there in Edgewood, BC, and in an indirect sort of way, I am too. Especially after seeing your ostrich picture. Very cute. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, what are we going to leave you with tonight? Let me see here. I don't really have a bird song to play. Well, any requests?
It would take a Maverick song free as a bird version.
Well, actually, you know what? That's why I'll play Free Dog. And you know why? Because when I wrote the lyrics to Free Dog, you know where I started? I started thinking about the Lynyrd Skynyrd song Free Bird.
Oh.
And that's why the lyrics at the beginning go, if I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Yeah, that's where it came from. That's where it came from. And with that, I'll tell you this. I'm going to leave here right now, but I'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern on the
flip side.
I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom and running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of the blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. Now the night's getting cold and the sky's turning gray. But Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With every step, he's leaving his bed. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day, when you're feeling alone, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. A heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild living in a spur. A tail that wags like it's never heard a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through the fields, breaking all the lanes.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.